There we are, look at that. And we have a lot of ceiling. Let me just zoom it in a little bit more. That's not right. Bear with me. Let's go, let's see, maybe like that, a little better. This way, this way? No, we'll go this way. I think that looks pretty good.
Yeah, it covers most everything.
I'll be moving it here pretty soon. So I wasn't able, I got so tired yesterday, I didn't do anything to this. So we'll do it all live.
Yeah.
And welcome to everybody joining us in the chat. We already have 310 people have jumped in there. I see Bright Tech has joined us again. Welcome back. And say hello quickly to some random folks here in the chat. Stan Ristov, Simba, Reality Bad Tanker, Frankie McCool, Brett Kennedy, Danvar249, Douglas Biggers is moderator in there today. So hello to Douglas. And Roadrunner Gaming, Red Dragon, Critches, Robert Roth, Mark M, Sergey Bevlov, Eddie Sawyers, Kev Middleton, Mark Adler, Chris Smith, Gerard DeMonte, Mariah Simonson, Harry Baldwin, Chris Rogers. Apparently Captain America is joining us today. That's pretty cool. John Huckabee. John is also a moderator there in the chat. Ryan James is saying hello. Omar Jawad says hello. And 330 others that can't get to everybody, but we'll just name them randomly from time to time. And welcome back. I hope you guys have watched the very first part of this series. If not, the link is in the video notes below the video. We started building yesterday a Ryzen 5 1600 computer, and this is for my niece. Her name is Camille, and Camille is in college, and she needs a computer for her dorm room, which she's going to use for schoolwork and some RPG style gaming, and on a budget. So in order to meet that budget and those needs, we've come up with the parts that we put together yesterday. We've got all the main hardware installed now. We've got some of the finishing up, which is the cable management and getting the hard drives hooked up and get the operating system installed, the BIOS updated, and got some contributions coming in already. I see Soren Rasmussen has contributed, looks like 20 Danish kroners is what it looks like. Don Bev has contributed $2, and Stephen Sheik has contributed $20. Thanks, you guys, for contributing to the channel. Stephen says, wishing you and yours a happy new year and many years of video uploading to come. Well, thank you, Stephen. Appreciate your generosity and your support. And of course, if you have questions while we're building, whether it's related or unrelated to what we're talking about on camera, the moderators and other viewers in the chat are often very helpful to help answer your questions. So don't be shy to ask what's ever on your mind there in the chat to other members of chat. And if you're in chat and you know the answer, let people know. All right. So what I wanted to do today, one of the first things I wanted to do was get some of this cabling taken care of. This case, any mini ITX case, is not ideal for cable management. And what I would like for you to do, I'm going to actually put you to work. I've got some nylon zip ties back here I'm going to grab.
There were a few comments that the microphone was too loud.
The microphone is the same as it was yesterday. Nothing has changed. So nothing I can do about that. They can lower the volume if it's too loud for them. You know, you'll have viewers that'll say like they can't hear me, and other viewers that'll say you're too loud. I have no control over their settings.
Okay.
I can tell you that everything we did yesterday, we just hit the power off button. Today we hit the power on button. None of the settings have been modified in any way, shape, or form. So
okay.
Something had to change for them, and you'll see several people in the chat saying the sound is fine.
Okay.
So usually it's the individual that's got the problem, not the group. So I've got some wire ties for you.
Yep.
And what I want you to do is, starting with these umbilical cables, these are switches and LEDs, I want you to go as close to the motherboard and put a wire tie there, and then go another couple inches, make it tight, put another wire tie, and work your way every couple inches back towards the front, so that this whole cable then is nice and wire tied up.
Okay.
It'll look like one thicker cable. And
Oh, yeah, this isn't the best angle, but
Joe Dagger says, I donated you $50. Sorry, Joe, I didn't see that. Was that today? When was that? Was it today? Thank you for your contribution. All contributions, of course. If I have left somebody out, please do let me know, because I do want to acknowledge you, give you a shout out. I do appreciate your support.
there's the zip tie.
So yeah, you got,
I'm going to scoot it a little further down once it's in.
yeah, good idea. Just at this point, you just want to make sure that you want all the slack to be at the other end of the cable. So you just make it nice and neat, you know, nice and taut on this end.
Okay.
And then we'll work our way towards the front. Somebody's saying donations are not supported in my country. Yeah, so if for people watching the live stream, there's a little $ icon down there for contributions. But if you can't donate through the YouTube chat area there, you can always use the donate button on TechVets anywhere in the world. You go to tech-vets.com, in the upper right corner there's a donate button, and it's just using PayPal, which is used all over the world. And then be sure to include a note in there to let me know if you're donating to TechVets or the YouTube channel, if you've got anything you want to say. And I get those. I don't get those during the live stream, I'll get them after. And speaking of which, William Leatherland made a contribution yesterday through PayPal. So again, another thank you to Bill Leatherland for his continued support.
So it looks pretty routed. The cable ties are together, they're bunched up, and it routes around the fan pretty nicely.
Okay, that works. And then this fan cable, what I want you to do, you probably want to do the opposite, right? Maybe. So the only secret to cable management is just making it look good. And everybody's case and hardware is all going to be different, so there's really no way to show people, here's how you do it. You just, depending on the specific hardware you've got, you work with what you've got, and depending on what you think looks good versus, that's all you can do. Now, when you have the cable kind of twisted and turning like this, you might want to just unplug it from the motherboard and straighten it out before we wire tie it. And you kind of quit a little early here. It looks like you only did half the cable. What about the other half?
I remember that you said to leave the taut at the end. I wasn't sure how far to the
Way
end.
at the end.
Okay.
Way at the end. So the idea is that all the loose cable we don't have to worry about, because it'll be out of sight and out of mind. So just keep going every couple inches until you get a couple inches away from the front of the case, or even an inch away from the front of the case. And then I'll get you some wire cutters and you can cut these little pigtails off. And then we'll do that fan cable. And like I said, no right or wrong way here. Just do what looks good, what looks appealing.
Okay.
And even consider if it's better to disconnect the cable and move it. Whatever going to look the best.
Do you want to move the camera, or would that not be?
They're just going to see the back of your head and your hand. So I think the further back the camera is, there's just no way to really film that. It's just too dark and too tight of a space. So welcome again to everybody who's joining us. It looks like we got about 472 people watching. We're continuing from yesterday's build where we started placing all the hardware in the case, getting everything configured. We're going to wrap up the wiring today, and we've got the hard drives to get connected and the operating system to install and the BIOS to update.
That would work best. just around here.
So when you're looking at, so I see you're looking at that front port audio cable.
Yeah.
And what I would do if I were you is I would disconnect that cable from the motherboard and I would reroute it to where it is least intrusive.
Okay. And that's there. Is there a trick to pulling it out, or is it just you do it?
Yeah, you just kind of wiggle and pull at the same time and it should just pop right off. There you go. Yeah, some of the cables have little clips. Those are just, they fit on with friction.
Okay.
And just watch when you run it that you don't run it in between other cables, you know, and end up tangling it up.
This way.
Looks like we have another contribution.
Is there a proper, this facing that way, this facing this way to put it in? I forget from yesterday.
Look at the end. Look at the end.
Oh, I see.
Can only go on one way. PM Crisp has contributed 10 pounds. Thank you, PM Crisp. Appreciate your support.
Does it click when it goes down?
It does not.
Okay.
You just kind of have to. You kind of have to wiggle and push until it won't go down, and just kind of visually look to see that it's seated. Matt Golding has contributed 10 pounds. And he says, just because you deserve it. Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. That's kind of you. 502 people are watching right now, watching us live. Alfred Lopez says, hello from Seattle, Washington. Before you go much further, let me see what you're doing.
Okay. I saw that these two cables went the same way, so I made sure to tie them together in a way that wouldn't hit either of the fans.
Okay. And then what I would do is I would take this cable and put it over those other two, because you see how it's...
Yeah.
That way this will have a cleaner line.
Okay.
We're not doing all the cable management, we're just getting a little bit of cable management done to make it a little easier to do the rest of the job here, and we'll continue on in a moment. I was actually planning on having this done last night, but I was so tired I just figured, we'll do it on camera. Don Bev says, hello from the kingdom, dilly dilly. I guess, I don't know, do we have to pay Budweiser every time we say that? Crystal Baptiste says, hello from Trinidad and Tobago. Oren Abraham says hello from Israel. Rajko Ruzik says hello from Serbia. Monkey 1972 is hello from Holland. Carey, you sound like you got a cold. No, that's just the way my voice sounds. Hello from Bulgaria, hello from Texas, hello from Wales. Hello from Bangladesh, hello from Malta, Australia, Netherlands. Let's see, my good buddy Austin Dabbert has joined us today. Hey Austin, good to see ya. That case is so small, cable management looks like a pain in the neck. Yes, cable management is going to be quite difficult in any mini ITX system because it's small, it's intended to be small. And so you're going to have less room for cable management and less room to work in the case. This is actually a pretty large mini ITX case as that goes. So it's actually easier with this case than with other mini ITX cases. So if you think this is hard, just wait.
Okay. That's gonna be taken care of when the hard drive things are put in, so that's okay.
Jack Wilson has contributed $50. Thank you, Jack. Thanks for your contribution.
I think the cable control is...
The cable what?
Management. Cable
Thank you.
management.
Go ahead and cut the pigtails off of all those zip ties if you would.
Okay.
Okay, try and get it as flush as you can, because they can have sharp edges that'll scratch your hands if you don't.
Flush?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means I don't want an edge.
Okay.
So if you put your hand in there, if you cut one of these, don't cut it flush. Leave it, just cut it with so that a little bit sticking out.
Okay.
And now if you run your hand across that, feel it.
I see. Where did that go? There's this. There's a
What Windows are we installing? We'll be installing Windows 10 Professional 64-bit. Who is Catherine? Catherine is a moderator here in the chat, and she's also a volunteer on the Facebook fan page. Catherine is doing, if you request a parts list, Catherine's the one that'll put that together for you to meet your needs and budget. And in fact, Catherine picked out all these parts, well, most of them for this build. Some people were a little concerned that the power supply was overkill, but the power supply was on sale, and it had a rebate on top of it. And of course, just because you have a 750 watt power supply doesn't mean it draws 750 watts. It means it can, just like if you have a 1,000 horsepower car, doesn't mean you have to drive it at 1,000 horsepower. So oftentimes when people think certain parts don't make sense, they don't understand what price was paid. I think if they did, they wouldn't be so puzzled. But I would suggest that when you do see things like that on a parts list where you're like, wow, that's, you know, a part that's a bit more powerful than what's needed, probably was because it was on sale and it was cheaper. It was equivalently priced or cheaper than a lesser part.
Do you have any tips as to how to find ends that just kind of fall into the computer?
Yeah, take the computer and tip it upside down. Put it in your hands. Grab it, pick it up. Turn it upside down and shake it. There it is. It's gone up.
Felt like a really bad idea, but it worked.
It felt like a bad idea?
Yeah.
As long as you put all the screws in, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, that's a good point.
When I worked at a computer building factory, the shipper's job before putting the side panels, well, it wasn't a side panel, it was a big old large piece. It was all one solid piece. The shipper's job was to pick the machine up over his head and shake it and to find any loose screws that the assembly line may have sloppily left in there. And that was part of the shipper's job. Pick every computer up and shake it over his head.
That should be about right.
Did you get them all?
Yep.
All right. Of course, that's not all our cable management, but that's just a little bit to make our job a little easier, to take the cables we've got now. Just go ahead and leave that for now.
Okay.
And let's hook this back up. Let's go ahead and do the BIOS update right now.
Okay.
Let's see, we're gonna hook video up. And then we need power. What did I do with the power
Right
cable?
here.
Oh,
I took it out before.
excellent. And it's plugged in to the wall?
No, it's not. Neither of them are.
Okay. All right, we're gonna go ahead and update the BIOS on this. There was, I'm assuming, the BIOS I downloaded is newer than what this board has because the BIOS I downloaded was released on the 1st of December. And I sincerely doubt that they were able to manufacture, distribute, ship the computer in that period of time. But we're going to find out for sure here in just a moment. Let me step around. And let's bring this monitor up a little bit. Can we move that?
Yep.
All right. Here we go. I think this belongs to you.
Most likely, yes.
All right. Let's get this turned back on. Let's see what version of BIOS we have. The monitor is on. And it's going to pop up here in just a moment. BIOS has been reset. Okay, thank you. And somewhere in here should tell us the model, the version of the BIOS.
Version F5.
F5, which was released on September 1st. What we've got was released on December 1st.
Okay.
So to do this, we're going to shut it off. I've got the BIOS file downloaded. I just copied the BIOS file onto this little flash drive. The flash drive has to be formatted in FAT16 or FAT32. You can't be NTFS. So you want to use a small capacity flash drive. I love having these little 2 gig flash drives. They're hard to find now because you get 8 gig flash drives for the same price. And an 8 gig one would work as well. So I'm going to turn this on and I'm going to hit end.
And that boots it from the drive.
It's not bootable. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to go back into the BIOS, but I'm going to go into a part of the BIOS called the Q flash or the quick flash. Oh, come on. Am I, let's do this again. Turn it off. Turn it back on. It does say right down here at the bottom, it's going to say the function keys and what they do. So if you watch right here, it says Q flash, and it'll tell us which key it is. It's usually end. I wasn't paying attention. It is end. So function and right arrow is end. But I don't know why it's not cooperating. Did I turn the keyboard on? I think it's on. Oh. This doesn't say it. Yeah, it's on. All right, one more time. I can actually just hit delete and go into the BIOS this way. And then once in the BIOS, there's an option for updating. Here we go. So we'll go over to BIOS. Fast boot, no, usually it's under tools. It's not in any of these. It's usually in here somewhere. Ah, there's Q flash right down here. Q flash. Update BIOS. Sees the file right here. This is BIOS version F10. We've got F5, so that's 5 versions newer.
5 versions newer in the span of a month?
3 months. Because it's a brand new chip that just came out from AMD. Press to start. I've never seen that before. And now it's updating. Now, when we're updating a BIOS, we just have to let the computer, leave it be. The only critical thing is that we don't interrupt it. We don't reset the computer. We don't lose power. We don't lose patience. Just let it sit, and it'll automatically restart when it's done. The fan in the front is not running because we haven't hooked it up, and I don't think we're going to hook it up. There's only 1 additional fan header on the motherboard, but the case has 2 additional fans. I don't know why Corsair did that. Most mini ITX motherboards only have a CPU fan header and a system fan header and no more than that. So I don't know what the engineers were thinking when they put 2 fans in here without a fan controller or splitter. Honestly, she doesn't need either this fan or the front fan hooked up. The machine will run fine without them. If she had a more powerful graphics card, or if she was overclocking, that would actually be important. So she can choose to hook up either the side fan or the front fan, or neither. It will make no difference to her whatsoever. The machine won't run any differently. You know, it may run a little bit cooler, but it's not going to run, it's still going to be within its normal operating temperature range regardless. So if anything, it just adds a little bit more noise and more dust into the system. A lot of people, you know, they see they've got a fan and they just think they have to use it. Depending on your configuration, like this config, you don't need either one of those fans. But we do have one fan header. We can hook up one, whether we choose to hook up the one here on the side, which is blowing air out, or the one up in the front that brings air in, or if we get a splitter and hook them both up, again, it won't make any difference whatsoever.
Plus, there's already 3 different fans doing intake because of the graphics card, the motherboard, and the power supply.
The CPU has its own fan, the video card has its own fan, and the power supply has its own fan, and those are your 3 hottest components. That's why you don't need these other fans.
Yeah.
Only when people are pushing the engineering beyond what it was designed to do in overclocking, or some of the real super high-end graphics cards still get pretty warm and you want to move that heat out of the system. But, you know, even if it made a temperature drop of 3 or 4 degrees Celsius by turning the fans on, whether the machine's running at 60 degrees Celsius or 40 degrees Celsius, it's still going to run exactly the same.
Yeah.
So there's really no benefit to it. Just kind of looking up in chat, seeing what folks have to say. And of course, welcome everybody. If you're just joining us, welcome into our latest live stream. Right now we're updating the BIOS on this Gigabyte AB350N gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. I think we're on version F5 and now we're going to version F10. So we have 5 new versions.
Even so, it does appear to be 83% finished.
I'm looking at the reflection on the screen there.
Yeah, I couldn't read it from this far.
No, but I can see how many, see the little yellow dots as they go around?
Yeah.
I can see how far away it is from completing the circle and estimate that's somewhere in the 80 percentile range. Let's see. You guys still look great in 4K. Well, I'm only broadcasting in 1080. Okay, so it's going to restart right now. It's doing that all on its own. And again, you've got to be patient. Right now, we're not seeing anything happening. There it is. Mike Wojcik has contributed $25 Canadian. It says, thanks for the videos, Carey. And then it scrolled up faster than I could read it.
Camille, you're a good learner or something.
You're a fast learner?
There we go.
Well, thank you for supporting the channel. There we go. We've got the BIOS updated now, and we can just verify that by turning the machine off. We're going to pull the flash drive out. Where is it? There it is. And we'll turn it back on and we'll check that BIOS version again. Now it'll say F10. It better. There we are.
It says it right there.
F10, there's the 1st of December, 2017. Everything looks good. Mostly you can just leave this stuff alone in here. We can certainly double check certain things. This has a fan controller, I don't know why. Like here it says CPU temperature disabled. We can say, we can put that at like 90 degrees Celsius. If it gets that hot, it'll give an alarm. If the fan doesn't work, we can enable that. You don't have to, just something you can do. It's running 30 degrees Celsius right now, which is very, very cold.
That's how many degrees Fahrenheit, do you know? About
I'm sure there's you can Google that. And I'm sure someone in the chat will tell us. Because we're Americans. We don't do that Celsius stuff. And all those people that use Celsius and millimeters and centimeters, they still say miles per hour.
100 Fahrenheit, 90 Fahrenheit, and 80 Fahrenheit seem to be 3 different answers. Okay.
86 sounds right.
Yeah. Thank y'all.
Of course, it'll warm up. We're just getting it started. Okay, so that part of the job is done. Those were 2 things I was going to do last night, was to just little light cable management and BIOS update. But we don't need to do that now because we've done it on camera. And I'm just going to leave this here, and we're going to leave this one here. And then what we want to do next is hook up the data and power cables to your hard drive and solid state drive.
Okay.
So here in the motherboard box, we're going to have a bag of data cables right here. Should be 2 data cables in there. Those are SATA cables. This is the bag that came with the power supply, and it's got some nylon zip ties in there I want. And then of course the power cable. Oh, and there were screws for the power supply.
Okay.
But they're the same.
That's what we used.
Actually, what we used is more matching to this case. You see how they have little round heads on them, and these have square heads?
Okay.
Nothing else on this case would have square. Those little tiny aesthetics things really mean a lot to some people, and because it does, I tend to lean towards using the one that's, it's a pretty subtle difference, and it really doesn't matter which set of screws we used.
Okay.
So go ahead and take those cables out of the bag, and then in this bag here, this came with the power supply, and this is all our extra cables, and we're going to need a SATA cable. So the great thing about a modular power supply is that some power supplies, all these cables are built in, and then the ones you don't use, you have to somehow cable manage. So because we have a semi-modular power supply, we only plug in the cables we need, and you save the rest of these for future needs.
Okay.
And in the meantime, it keeps your case nice and clean, since you don't have to have all these cables in there you're not using. So this cable right here, one end of it goes into the back of the power supply, and it won't matter.
Oh.
You see how there's 4 connectors, 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which connectors you use, they're all equal.
Okay.
So when you're gonna hook up power to the back of your hard drive or your solid state drive, you wanna look at which direction does it go on, right? Because you don't wanna have to go wrap the cable around itself. They all provide power equally, and it's just really about what's gonna look the prettiest. So usually I will use the first and second cable as power, then run this one to the back of the power supply, and then the rest of the slack we'll tie up later and make it look, we'll cable manage that. So let's start with that. And again, this will be something quite difficult to be able to film because of I want you to step around this side though, so people can at least get an idea of what you're doing. We'll turn that this way and see if, well, first of all, take one of the drives out. Okay. Either one, doesn't matter, because I want to show you how this goes in. Since you've never done this before. There's 2 connectors, right? And you see here, there's a groove on one side.
Yeah, for that.
So this cannot go on like this, right?
Yeah, it has to go on.
It has to go on like this, and it's just gonna lock, right? It's just gonna friction fit. There's no clicking, there's nothing that holds it in.
Okay.
And you push it, you kind of do exactly what you're doing until it covers up the connector entirely.
There we go.
There. And then the other one, that's the other cables, that's going to go on the other connector, and you'll see it as well has a little hook on it, little groove.
There.
Right, but this has a little clip and it will lock into place. However, one of these cables is a little different. You see this one has a little 90-degree angle on it.
Yes.
Right? And so you got to think about how am I going to be able to use that. So the first things first, let's go ahead and pull that cable back off of there. This is your challenge now. Put the drive back in, And both drives have the same connectors. So what you want to do is figure out how to get your hand in there and how you're going to adjust this cable. Does this one need to go on the hard drive, or does this one need to go on the solid state drive?
Okay.
And you need to figure that out. Is it going to go on like this, or is it going to go on
Like that.
like that? But then look at how the cable's starting to twist around. So that's
Yeah.
not good. It's got to be,
This one should
This
probably
one?
be the top, and then that one the bottom.
well, yeah. So let's do that first.
And this is probably a ridiculous question. Is there any way to remove the front panel fan so
To
it would
get
be
in it
easier to
from
get
the
in
front?
Yeah.
Let's see. It's not a bad idea. We absolutely can. We have to take out 4 screws to get this fan out,
Okay.
but it's just 4 screws. Let's take them out. In fact, let me grab you. I've got a different screwdriver back here. Where is it?
So since the front fan isn't going to be connected to the motherboard, and there are other parts that we're definitely keeping for if we need them in the future, would it make sense to keep this front fan out until it's needed? For ease of access or some other reason?
I mean, it's really a personal decision. I tend to lean towards you're going to misplace screws, you're going to misplace the fan. You might need the fan someday if you change parts out and you won't know where it is. For that reason, I would just leave it in there, and then I would take it out on the rare occasion that I would need to get in there for any reason.
Okay.
But that's just me. I mean, it's your computer. You can certainly do whatever you prefer. There's no right or wrong answer with that.
Okay. I was thinking cable control, but we could also
Cable
put the
what?
fan management. But I was thinking that if we put the fan in last, then this area is not necessarily connected to.
Yeah, we can leave it out and make it one of the last things we put back in. Nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Sure.
So this is the cable, and the top one goes for the SSD, while the bottom one goes for the solid state drive. That's the wrong word. There's a notch, and there's a notch.
I missed a contribution here in the chat. I need to grab my little wireless keyboard and mouse connector so I can see what I missed. Will you do that?
Okay, that's in.
Now just get rid of
The
that.
notch is on the bottom here too.
Oh, Bob Barnes has contributed 10 pounds. Thank you, Bob. Thanks again for another contribution. Appreciate that. I'm starting to recognize his name. Bob says, I really enjoyed the latest episode of Tech Vets. It was very entertaining. Anyway, thanks so much for a great year of videos, and Happy New Year. Thank you, Bob. We managed to get 2 or 3 Tech Vets done this year. But I'm glad we were able to get that other show done. It's been too long since Mike and I had spoke.
As for this going into the power supply,
Yep, so it would be, look at how many plugs, or, look at the connector.
yeah,
And anywhere that connector fits on the back of the power supply is the right place.
okay.
So then how do you decide? You decide by trying to keep all the cables as close together as possible for cable management purposes,
Okay.
right?
I know that this is missing, it has a hole here rather than a pin, but it'll still fit into the ones with the pin. Will it make a difference?
I don't understand your question. Let's try that again.
Okay.
It's got a clip on it.
Well, each of these 6 has something that connects to something else, whereas this one in the middle top doesn't seem to connect to anything.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to you.
Okay.
You don't even need to be paying attention to that. Really, it's just a matter of matching the connector with the plug, or the plug with the connector. It's only going to go in one direction. And as I mentioned, any of those where it fits is the right location. And just think about trying to keep all the cables Think about your cable management when you're hooking it up. Where is it going to be the most hidden or the easiest to manage? That's really the only consideration you need to worry about. And then when you plug that in, it should click into position because you'll hear that little plastic clip go in.
There we go. It's in.
Very good.
And then there's the second cable.
The data cables?
Yeah. There's this one, and here we go.
Yeah, so one of those cables has a 90-degree bend on it that you're not going to be able to plug that into the motherboard.
Okay.
So it's got to go on one drive or the other. So then the question to ask yourself is, if this cable has a 90-degree bend, is it going to be easier for this to be on the top or easier for it to be on the bottom? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
Just take a look at it and decide for yourself. But I would suggest doing that one first.
Okay.
For that reason. And just, picture in your mind where the other cable's going to go and how it's going to route.
And this connects, this connects to the power? Or
Well, we just hooked up power to the drives,
Okay.
right? So that's data, and so the hard drive needs to have power to operate, and then once it's operating, it needs to talk to the motherboard to transmit and to receive data. So what you're holding in your hand is that data that transmits and receives the information from the drive to the motherboard, or from the motherboard to the drive.
Okay.
That cable, one end of it will go to the back of the drive, and one end will go onto the motherboard.
Okay.
So the 90-degree angle is the one I want you to hook up first. It's got to go on the back of one of those two drives. So it's up to you to decide which one makes the most sense to hook that cable up
Okay. I think
with the 90-degree bend in it. Does it make more sense to put that on the top drive or the bottom drive? Keeping in mind you've still got another cable to run, and will it get in the way? And the camera seems really crooked all of a sudden. See if that's a little better. I can lower it a little bit too. There we go. It is very difficult to try and film this part, especially in a mini ITX case. So I'm not picking the camera up and trying. I'm not even going to attempt to film that.
This is going to be interesting because it doesn't, it seems like it was made for a motherboard that was underneath the drives rather than the other way around.
Try that.
That's twisted. No, it's not twisted. And this plugs into there. One of those four spaces.
Yeah. Now, which did you hook that up to? Did you hook it up?
Solid state drive.
So you went with the top drive.
Yeah, it wouldn't connect on the bottom due to the... So does it matter?
Technically it doesn't matter, but they are numbered typically 0 through 3. And since that's the solid state drive, you said, right?
Yes.
So that should be the boot drive, which should be drive 0. And we would look in the motherboard manual and see which of those connectors is SATA port 0.
Okay.
If we move it around to a different SATA port, we may have to go into the BIOS to move the boot order around. But if we plug them in, putting the main boot drive on SATA port 0, then it should just default to the right boot drive without having to go in and reconfigure anything. But the manual here will tell us which port is which. Most motherboards actually have it written in really fine print on the circuit board, but I don't think on this board because it's so tiny.
It does. It has 0, 1, 2, 3. 0
Yeah,
being...
I found it at the same time. I found it right here.
There we go.
So the question is, can you tell which one is 0?
Yep.
Go ahead and
Should
plug
be
that.
the top left corner from my perspective.
I'll just take your word for it. Sounds good to me.
Okay. There we go. That one's connected, and then this one's for the other, for the hard
Now
drive.
now to the regular mechanical hard drive, and then the SATA port 1. That's what I'm looking at, right?
It should be right next to 0.
I'm on the wrong page. Is it this page? Or is it this page? I think it's this page. There it is.
It didn't click, but it also isn't pulling out.
Okay, that's fine.
So
Yeah, sometimes you can hear the click, sometimes you don't, but that's really the only way you know, regardless, is you give the cable a light pull and see if it falls out. If
okay.
it doesn't fall out, you've got it incorrectly.
And number 1 is right next to it, which makes this easier. This out so I can reroute it. Okay. They're both plugged in.
Okay, and we're clear of all the fans, right?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is the only issue, which
Yeah.
can be tied up
We'll
here.
worry about that. That's your cable management. You really want to save the bulk of it for the end.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you find out something doesn't work and you have to take it back apart and you have to undo all your cable management that you spend time to do. So that's why I try and save that towards the very end. Go ahead and move that monitor back, and then let's plug it back in and turn it back on and start our operating system install. I've got Windows 10 Pro 64-bit on this flash drive, the latest and greatest. And I'm going to grab the keyboard and mouse from here, and we're going to plug it in over here. And then I'm going to take the flash drive and we'll plug this into any of these ports here on the back. Perfect. And go ahead and fire it on.
Okay.
Fire it up. Nope,
Oh,
you just
it's
switched it
already.
on. Yep. It should just automatically boot to the flash drive. It'll see you've got a solid state drive and a hard drive, but there's no partition, there's no operating system, and it can't boot from them until there is. So we're gonna, hopefully it will default to the flash drive and boot from it. We're gonna find out here in just a moment.
Does this monitor automatically turn on when that one connects to it?
We never turned it off.
Okay.
Yeah. So do have to give it a minute to come up. It looks like you've turned the monitor off though. There's a power button right here. So if you were to, when you moved it, I think it's touch capacitive.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at that. Windows, the installation screen has already come up. So what we're going to do, now normally, sometimes beginners get confused over how do I know I'm installing to the right hard drive, right? Because you've hooked up the solid state drive and the mechanical drive. Well, what I recommend is you don't hook up the mechanical drive. If you only hook up your solid state drive, then the only place you can install to is your solid state drive.
So we should turn it off,
No.
unplug?
You don't have to do it that way. I'm just saying
Okay.
it keeps life simple.
Okay.
But if you want to make life complicated and you hook everything up like we did, which is fine, then we just, when we get to that point on the build, is this not working?
Oh.
Why is our front port USB not working? Did the cable come out?
It wasn't plugged in all the way.
Let's try the back ports. Let's go right here. See if that works any better now. Anything?
Oh.
Keyboard's working.
Mouse is on.
Okay, so basically we just went with the defaults on the first screen and the second screen, which is just enter, enter, or click OK and click OK. Here it wants a product key. We're not going to enter a product key. And right down here in fine print, it says I don't have a product key. I want you to select that. Then it says, which OS do you want? We want Windows 10 Pro right there. That's the one we want, and enter. Then it should come up and ask us where we want to put it. It should ask if we want it on the mechanical drive or the solid state drive. Well, we got the agree to the end user license agreement, which everybody reads and fully understands before they agree to it.
Yeah.
We're going to do custom. Always do custom. You'll see
Drive
drive 0 and drive 1.
Yeah.
So that's determining drive 0 based on which SATA port you plugged it into. That's why I'm saying it doesn't really matter. Technically, they all work the same. This just keeps life simple. Now, when you have 2 and you don't know which is which, how do you know this is your solid state drive?
465.8 gigs out
That's
of
right.
the 500 gigabyte versus the 2 terabyte, which is 63 gigs.
So you've selected drive 0 already,
Yep.
then click next. And that's all you do for right now. It's just going to go to work, and it's going to copy the files and expand them, and soon we'll have Windows 10 installed. Just that easy.
Does this computer have Bluetooth? I don't think it does, but
Sometimes computers that have Wi-Fi have Bluetooth, and this computer, this motherboard does have Wi-Fi. I honestly don't know. I never use Bluetooth. Not on a computer. I use it in my car. Wireless communication. Yeah, it's got Bluetooth 4.2.
okay. So aside from like connecting a phone to it to say, hey, you know, play music.
There
or
are
something.
Bluetooth keyboards and mice.
Okay.
There are Bluetooth headphones. It's just, you know, it's a very limited range. You're not going to get more than, I mean, if you can get 30 feet, you'll be lucky. So the specifications for the motherboard and all the parts we're using in the build are in the video notes below the video. So anybody that wants to know the information of the details of the parts we've selected can click on those links and bring up all the information. Everything about the bells, whistles, features, pricing, warranty, etc., etc., etc.
We did do the BIOS update live today.
Lost Level Games has contributed generously $100 to the channel. Says, happy holidays, Carey. You've helped me out a lot through the last 5 years building my own PCs for myself and family. And wow, that's very generous. Thank you so much for the generous contribution to the channel. I'm going to take my keyboard and mouse back so I can go back and read everything that he said. I couldn't quite see it all.
Yeah.
Are we rebooting for the first time already? Wow, that was quick.
Yeah.
Now it should automatically boot to the solid state drive. Well, Lyle's busy. Pretty excited. Lyle gets excited when I install Windows 10. All right, that's still installing Windows 10, and while it's doing that, I'm going to steal the keyboard and mouse and put it over here on the streaming computer. I've used 2 sets of keyboard and mice, and I always grab the wrong set, so it's just easier for me if I have one keyboard and mouse and I move the receiver.
Yeah. If it ends up where both need to be used, that makes sense. Nothing, I'm rambling.
Oh. So, yeah, so Lost Level Games has contributed $100, and I was reading what he said there. Happy holidays, Carey. You've helped me a lot through the last 5 years building my own PCs for myself, family, and friends. This is a thank you. Well, thank you back, Lost Level Games. I appreciate your contribution and support to the channel. Are the dogs looking for more boxes? Just Lyle. while. I think he was kept in a box as a puppy, and he hates boxes, and all boxes must die.
Oh, let's start with region. It's all booted up.
Good, good, good. All right, well, let's go ahead and take the keyboard and mouse and move it back over here. I don't think it's going to work up there for some reason. I think you're going to have to plug it in the back.
I know it worked up here a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it's working now. All right, so we got United States, US, just hit enter.
Second keyboard?
You can skip that, just hit enter. It sees the Wi-Fi. Let's not do that. So let's choose skip for now, because I don't have the antennas on it. I usually just recommend putting your first name only in this.
Okay.
That's my recommendation. Skip the password, just skip it.
Okay.
You can do that later, because I don't want to, we're going to be rebooting a lot. I don't want to have to keep re-entering it over and over. Your choice if you want to use Cortana, yes or no. I advise you to turn all of this off.
Location, diagnostics.
Nobody can see through you though, so you might want to stand over to the side.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. No voice recognition. No location. Okay.
Why are you leaving I recommend turning all this off.
Okay. I know that they're going to show ads anyway, so I don't mind if they're more geared towards me because that makes them more enjoyable to.
It's your choice.
Ignore. But
I turn them all off.
Yeah.
Because the ads are always irrelevant to me. There are no such thing as relevant ads. Okay, and if you're good to go, you've clicked accept, very good, and now it's going to just do its final prep before the installation is complete. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, in the box, we've got the antennas.
Okay.
No, you know what? I'm not going to do the Wi-Fi. I'm going to run an extra cable. And we'll run a LAN cable to it to get the updates. Let's see, I've got a LAN cable here somewhere. Here we go. And I'm going to just plug in the network here. Just watch your step. We got a lot of cables running across the floor.
Can do.
Because that would be terrible to put all this loving and care into this delicate build only to trip and knock it off the table. That would be bad times.
Do either of your dogs attack cables?
What's that?
Do either of your dogs attack cables?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nope.
That works. No.
Okay, we booted up.
Mm-hmm.
So what we can do now is eject that flash drive. So go down here.
Here, Bluetooth eject.
Yep.
Or USB, not Bluetooth. It should be, yeah.
Okay, and then we've got a disk in here that we can't use because we don't have an optical drive. So let's go to, let's see. Most of the drivers should be installed already. I'm going to turn off this people button. It really bothers me. We're going to go to the control panel. And I'm going to go to Windows Update, or what they call Update and Security. Hit check for updates. And let's grab any updates for Windows 10. It'll also look for any drivers. You'll see some of this stuff. There's an Intel Bluetooth driver. It's loading. Definition updates for Windows Defender. Scroll down a little bit. What else we have coming up?
It's going back up.
Oh, okay. That's fine. We'll just let it do its thing, and we'll see what drivers are left for us to install. This is one of the things that's great about Windows 10 is a lot of the drivers are just automatically loaded, and it makes building a computer that much easier. I think we can raise this camera up a little bit. Or just maybe I just need to back off the zoom. Do that. See if that helps a little bit. Okay. Let's see how we're doing on our updates. We're getting there. We're getting there. In fact, I think I'm going to steal the keyboard and mouse again so I can chat with the viewers while we're waiting for updates. Let me grab this and I'm going to step over here. All right. The chat is always very interesting. It's like 17 different conversations happening at the same time, and not all of the people are involved in speaking to anybody else at all.
I noticed it goes from like asking questions like, have I seen your show, have I watched your show, to, you know, here are different specs.
Yeah,
to
they're all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Floyd's Ghost has contributed $20 to the channel, says Happy New Year. Well, Happy New Year to you as well, Floyd's Ghost. And of course, thank you for supporting the channel.
The front fan, we took it out so that way cable management would be a little bit, cable management? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Would be a bit easier and the hard drives could be connected.
We're going to get you there. We're going to get you there.
I'm unsure as to whether they're saying cable control and that's what you should call it manner, or if they're saying you keep calling it cable control, it's not that.
Nobody has heard the word cable control before, and they're amused by it, and some of them actually think it's kind of funny and they like it.
I hope it turns into some sort of a short-lived meme that I can just
A
say that I'm
little cultural
responsible
event
for.
that you started? Only with the nerds, though.
Yeah. For the build, I have my own keyboard.
Show them the keyboard and mouse you're going to use.
Yeah, totally.
She brought them over. We're not going to use them because it just adds more cabling to our mess here.
Yeah.
But she didn't bring yours today.
For the mouse, it was something I found on Amazon. Yeah, there we go. It's something I found on Amazon. It's pretty simple. I don't need anything major at this point in time, but it's corded, so that's really the advice I got. I also happen to have a mechanical keyboard.
I love that keyboard.
It's a wonderful keyboard. My brother bought it, found out that it wasn't the switch that he preferred.
Oh.
I think this is blue switch and he wanted brown. So I drove him to Fry's, he gave me a keyboard, it all worked out.
I think I have that keyboard.
Really?
Let me see.
It says...
Is it this one?
Yeah, except, yeah, a little less dusty though.
Oh, well, that's free in Arizona. You can have all the dust you want. You can see that's how often I use it. But I really do like this keyboard. It's very solid. It feels very well made.
Keys are not like far apart, they're
It
close
doesn't
together.
have it doesn't have the 10 key. You know, it's a little smaller, so the 10 key pad is missing. But I don't use that on diagnostics and repairs anyway. I use that on the administrative computer I got, but not when I'm diagnosing. So this is the CM Storm, Quick Fire Rapid. Yeah, it's a pretty expensive keyboard. I think they're around $90 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Cameron found one that was like $120 that was a brown switch, and he was like, this is what I'm most comfortable using.
How are we doing here? It wants to retry. Okay. Sometimes one update has to install separately from other updates. And it's not that it failed necessarily in the sense that something went wrong, but it may have failed in the sense that it needs to install one update before it can install another one.
Okay.
So sometimes when you see that retry, often if you just hit the retry, and I'm back to not working again with this. I don't know why. There, it's working now. Where did my retry button go? There it is. We'll hit retry. And now it's going to check for updates again, and then we'll go forward from there. It should just automatically start downloading anything it finds.
Yeah, awaiting install. The keyboard isn't in the parts list because it was something I got independently before building the computer.
A keyboard and a mouse are very personal. They're very subjective to what an individual would find appealing. And I don't like to include any recommendations for keyboards or mice because it is such an individual decision. It's such a personal decision. Any keyboard or mouse will work with any build, so there's no reason to include any specific ones. So let's see how we're doing on our updates now.
Awaiting install.
It's installing a big cumulative update for Windows 10. See, sometimes it's those big updates, they have to be installed separately, and then you get that try again or update failed, and a lot of people think, oh no, something went wrong, when in fact it's all running exactly like it's supposed to.
PUGB. What PUGB? Do you know what it is? It seems to be recurring in chat a bit.
It's just one person being very loud, I think.
Okay.
Squeaky wheel. No, I don't know what that's in reference to. Oh, apparently it's a game.
Oh, what kind of game?
Well, I'm sure it stands for something.
Yeah.
Player Unknown Battlegrounds. Never heard of it. Battle Royale.
Multiplayer.
Well, apparently everybody knows what it is but us. And they all like it.
So is it a multiplayer?
2 million people, 2 million people are playing it now, they say. Wow, there's 2 million people without jobs. Oh, here come the others now.
Okay.
Here come the opposers. I could just sit here and commentate on the chat. Now they said it's 3 million, not 2 million.
Yeah. And Dota was mentioned.
Yeah, I'll see Dota and GTA, those I know.
Yeah.
But PUBG, I've never seen that before.
Call of Duty, Doom.
That's
Bitcoin. Haven't heard of that game, but
Bitcoin?
yeah.
That's a fun one.
Truck Simulator.
And now we're just going to start naming games. See what happened now?
Yeah.
Now it's a competition of who can name the most obscure game. Cuphead!
Super Mario Bros. Well, do they have any Mario recent games that would run on a PC rather than like Nintendo devices?
I don't know. I never was into the Mario games, except for the original Mario Brothers game, Donkey Kong.
Yeah, Donkey Kong's the one where you hit the bongo controller, right? I know they had a version that was similar to that in like 04, 05, 06, 07.
No, this would have been in the 1980s.
Okay. Oblivious to everything tech-wise.
Yeah, good luck keeping up with all those comments.
It's kind of fun, actually, just reading it and
It's very
seeing
random,
some stick out and others don't.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's just timing, right? Somebody could post something, and then it immediately gets pushed off the top of the screen, and then somebody else will post something, and it stays there for a while, and you can actually read it.
I see that comment. Camille will never see it, but I do.
Well, you just took their bait.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, Rusty's like a follower. He's been following the channel for a while, so good shout out to Rusty there. You can slow down the chat. Yes, you can make it so people can only leave one comment every 60 seconds. I don't want to do that to people.
I guess I'm your daughter now.
Wow. That's going to really upset my brother. All right, let's see how we doing over here. Updates
Still
are available.
updating.
Oh, wants to
awaiting
restart. Let's go ahead and let it restart. So we're just doing Windows updates. We just finished a Windows 10 install. We're grabbing all the updates to Windows 10 right now. What's going on, Lyle? You decided to come back in? Come back in here, boy? He's too short for the camera to pick up.
Yeah.
I have that problem too.
And we could move the camera, but it's like at the perfect angle for the monitor and the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rusty likes my arcade game build. Rusty has good taste in videos. I think that's one of my favorite builds. And it's not getting enough views that it deserves, in my opinion. In my humble, unbiased opinion, that video should have performed much better than it did.
Oh, restarted.
Yeah, we're going to go back to Windows Updates. We're going to go back to the control panel one more time.
Make sure there aren't any updates that are now available
Updates
because
to
the
the
last ones
updates.
were just done.
Yep. So we're going to check again. If you were doing Windows 7, we'd be here for the next 6 hours doing this.
Oh. Your device is up to date.
Wow, that was quick. Let's see if anything's missing in the device manager, if we have to go and grab any drivers for anything.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is go back to, you know what, I'm just going to type in system. I think that'll take us to the system icon.
There is
Nope,
another
that's not what I want.
driver I will need to install later, which just means that I can use the Nintendo 360 with an adapter, Nintendo 360, Xbox 360 control with a wireless adapter. I can do it on my own. Would you prefer if it were done here or?
Nope.
Okay.
Most of the time you just install a driver when you need it. So things like printers and things like that. And a lot of times Windows 10 will automatically load the driver for most things. Looks like Windows 10 has loaded every single driver we've needed. We don't need anything else. It's all recognized and installed properly. Once again, it's just another benefit of Windows 10. We don't have the latest. I think if we go to NVIDIA, we can get a newer driver. We can certainly download Google Chrome. Do you like Google Chrome or Firefox? What do you prefer?
Using
Edge.
the Mac for so often, I generally use Safari, but Chrome is my number one choice.
Chrome doesn't, Safari doesn't work in Windows.
I know.
So you want Chrome?
Yes, please.
Okay. The number one use for Internet Explorer is to download Google Chrome. So we're going to accept and install and run. And yes. And then what I'm going to do is we've got the Samsung SSD software. We're going to grab that once I get Chrome, and we'll download that and make sure there's no update to the firmware on the Samsung drive. Make sure the Samsung drive is running in SATA 3 AHCI mode, so that we're getting, and we'll verify the performance out of the drive. So there's Chrome installed. And for Samsung, I go to samsung.com/Samsung SSD, enter. And then we're going to go to Tools and Software. And I want the Magician software, which is right here. And it's downloading now. We're going to have that here in just a moment. And then that's going to begin to install just as soon as it finishes downloading. There we go. Click OK. I'm going to close the browser. I don't need that anymore. Click Next. Agree to the license agreement. Click Next, click Next, click Next, click Next, click Next.
But not cancel.
We don't want to cancel it. And then we're going to click Finish. And then the software is going to start. It's scanning your computer to see if there's any Samsung drives. And if so, if they are genuine. We have the latest firmware version. We've had 0.0 terabytes, so we know it's a brand new drive. It hasn't been returned by another customer and repackaged.
Yeah.
AHCI mode is activated. And we can turn rapid mode on, I think. Rapid mode, performance improvement. Yes, let's turn it on. Rapid mode is a caching tool that Samsung Magician software enables on some Samsung solid-state drives. So as if a solid-state drive wasn't fast enough, by enabling the cache, it can give you the illusion of even faster performance. I'll get the words out eventually.
I mean, Nintendo 360 and cable control have already become memes. We can only add more.
That's all right. You know, I personally think that most people are going to be more like you than like me and the people who watch my videos. In other words, they're not computer people. They're regular, ordinary people who use computers. And so the computer people are the ones that go, well, actually, so don't let that get to you. Don't let it bother you. If it does, don't let it.
Oh, I think it's wonderful. Like starting two memes in the span of half an hour, like, wow.
Carey, Safari works in Windows. As far as I know, Safari has not been supported for Windows. Apple ended support a couple years ago. So maybe an old, outdated version of Safari, but there's no updated Safari for Windows.
Everything seems to be booted.
Good, good, good. Oh, hold on. So I tell you to watch out for the cables, and then I step on them, and then I step on the dog. Oh, you're a tough dog. Don't give me that. Oh, it's a good boy. Now he's going to trip on the cables. Okay, we're good.
So I've seen that a lot of people use Opera or Opera.
Opera?
Opera as a browser. How does that compare to like Google Chrome or Safari in terms of
personal preference.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong.
Okay.
Let's see. I want a couple of utilities here. I want the CPU Z utility, the Crystal Disk Info, Crystal Disk Mark. Let's copy those onto the desktop, and let's do a little performance testing here. See how it performs. What else do I want? We'll grab Prime 95, which I should have in here. We'll grab Prime 95. We'll put that there, and we'll grab the hardware monitor software to monitor the temps to see how hot we can make this thing get when we put it under our full workload. All right, so this is just a little testing software. We're just going to put it on temporarily just to see some numbers to measure. The best measure is really how fast you think it is. There's a lot of psychosomatic sort of, well, it says it's fast, so I guess it's fast. You should be able to determine if your computer is fast or not by how it feels, not by what some numbers on the screen tell you. So if I look at Crystal Disk Mark, we measure the performance of the drive. Actually, I need to, see I just did it. Actually, I need to go into the disk management utility because we still have to partition and format the 2 terabyte mechanical storage because it won't see it until we do that. Okay. It's completely invisible right now, but if we look here, it says, hey, you've got a disk that needs to be initialized just automatically. So we click OK. So this is the drive 0 that has all the partitions that Windows has created for us. And then below it, we just partitioned this whole drive as one big partition. But now we need to allocate it. So I'm going to right click on it, choose New Simple Volume. Click next, click next, click next. We'll do a quick format, which is fine. The volume name, we'll just call it 2TB so we know what it is. Click next, click finish, and then that's gonna format this very quickly. It's done. And I can close that. Now let's run DiskMark 64. This is Crystal DiskMark, it's a free utility. We can select either the C drive or the D drive now will be available. These numbers are gonna be unbelievable because we've got rapid mode turned on. So rapid mode is a cache. It uses some of your RAM. And anything you access multiple times, it saves it and is able to give it to you faster. So you can see these numbers here. This says 3963.6.
Yeah.
Without the cache turned on, this would probably be around 540, 550, which is an honest number. This is the cached number. So, but it's kind of fun to look at it. That's why you can't just rely on benchmarks for testing to determine if it's fast or not, because there could be some optimization or tweaks the manufacturers have done just for the testing software, and people go, wow, look at that, when in reality it's just all an illusion. But anyway, it's fun to look at those big numbers. And let me grab the wireless keyboard and mouse once again while that's running. It takes a couple minutes to run. The whole left side it's reading different types of data reads. Then it's going to do the same thing, but it's going to be writing. And the writing usually is slower than reading.
So it's kind of like saying if you open up this file and want to use it, this is what the read speed is. But if you want to copy a file or put a file on the hard drive, then that would be the writing?
No, because,
Okay.
well, they're different types of files take different lengths of time to write. Files, if you have 1,000 files that are small or one file that's as big as 1,000 files, it's going to affect your write speed and your read speed both, depending on the kind of file.
Okay.
But generally speaking, writing is slower than reading
Okay.
on a solid state drive. On a mechanical drive, they're usually about the same. Looks like I missed a contribution to the channel. Let's see, give him a shout out. It was, who was that? Let's see. Sosin. Looks like North Korean. Norwegian kroner. 200 Norwegian kroner. I think that's NOK. NOK? Let's see. Let's see what that works out to. 200 NOK to USD, for US dollars. That's about $24.37 US, and it is Norwegian krone. It says krone, I call it kroner. Anyway, thank you for the donation. Thank you for contributing to the channel. I want to go to Norway one of these days. It's on my bucket list. All right, let's just wait here a moment. This test should almost be done.
It's,
Jonathan Mayberry has contributed 10 pounds. Your niece is a smart cookie and should do well in college. It's nice when people are nice, isn't it? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the kind words and the support. Krone is singular, kroner is plural. Well, that explains that. People are asking what your plans are for antivirus. Do you have one you like to use?
the one that I've learned to use where I work at the school is Malwarebytes, and just...
It's a very good one.
Yeah.
Highly recommended.
Haven't used the paid version.
Do you guys get a discount on it at the school?
No, we don't. It's
What a
just
shame.
what we use to diagnose, do they have viruses.
Okay, when you're doing like a cleanup or you're trying to solve an issue,
Exactly.
I do the same thing.
We do, however, get Microsoft Office, the most recent version. We get it for free until we graduate.
Don't know why my phone says I have a voicemail if there's not any call history. That doesn't make any sense. How can somebody leave a voicemail without calling? I'll check it later. All right, is that done yet? Still running.
It's on the last one, or it just finished.
When these boxes change, see right now it says stop. That means it's running. So when the word changes back to what these actually stand for, you'll see here in a minute.
And does that relate to how much green is in the box, of how close that specific function is?
No, that's a
finishing?
measure of the number, a graphical representation of the number.
Okay.
See, because that's a smaller number and the green doesn't go as far. That's a bigger number and the green goes further.
Huh.
There, it's finished. See how now it's telling you this is a sequential read, this is a 4K, 4K, 4K.
Okay.
Different types of writing. Now, to compare that, if I grab the, once again, let me grab the keyboard and mouse, we'll plug that back in up here. We'll compare that to the mechanical drive. You're going to see a huge difference. I'm going to choose the D drive, and we're going to do the same test again, only now on the mechanical drive.
Okay.
I'm guessing we'll see numbers around 180 maximum, which is pretty significant, going from a 4-digit number to a 3-digit number. However, the 4-digit number is a cache number. It's not a real number. The solid-state drive should be around 540, 550 megabytes a second. It is megabytes, not megabits. People on the internet don't, a lot of people don't seem to understand the difference. Big capital B is bytes, a little tiny lowercase b is bits. You need 8 bits to equal 1 byte. Okay. No, don't you do that, Lyle. That's just
food.
Rude. They
this
like
is not your food.
They like your snacks.
Yeah.
So you will see on the software here, it does have a capital B on the measurement. And of course, it's referring to bytes.
Okay.
Jack Mikolay says, love your videos. Have a great new year. Thanks, Jack. You too. See how we're doing so far. Right now we're just running the Crystal Disk Mark utility. That's a free utility available. Just go to Google, type in Crystal Disk Mark, and you'll locate it. I like to use the portable versions so I don't have to install any software that is always updated. Every couple of weeks it's always updated. I always want to run the latest version of it. So by using the portable version, it forces me to always be using the latest version. Irving T has contributed 10 euros and says, thanks, Carey, for all your videos you've done. I've learned a lot. From France. Well, thank you, Irving. Appreciate that.
The German Shepherd does, you do shake now, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you gave me a paw. Now I have to feed you. How do I do this without having my fingers ripped off?
Well, you want to definitely give it to both of them.
Okay.
And if you lay it flat in the palm of your hand, you'll be less likely, at least with Lyle, to having to lose a finger. There you go.
There we go.
Where do I get Windows 10? I'm a system builder, so I can buy Windows 10 where you guys cannot buy it. I can buy it from a distributor who sells to system builders. But for customers, I recommend going to Amazon or Newegg and buying it, not from a marketplace seller, buy it direct from Amazon or Newegg, because otherwise you may end up buying a stolen copy. All right, how is our test running right now? We are at 187, 185. See, they're very similar. Mm-hmm. I'm really only interested in those 2 top numbers.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't really care about, some people care about these numbers. I don't. Those are the main numbers. These are going to be the biggest numbers, and those are you need something to compare with. Mm-hmm. You need to pick something. So I always go with the top read and write speeds. And like I say, with a mechanical drive, they should be virtually identical. If you run this test 3 different times, you're going to get 3 different numbers probably, but they're all going to be within the same ballpark. So that's, just keep that in mind. They're not, any kind of test is not that precise with a computer because there's a lot of variables of things that could be happening. Windows could be trying to download an update, or the paging file or swap file could be resizing. Temp files could be written or erased. Well, this is because Windows multitasks.
Yeah.
So test results are very difficult to get precise test results from any computer. And of course, if you've got antivirus running and a bunch of other stuff running in the background, that will affect the results as well.
I do have headphones. I didn't bring them with me. Found them on Black Friday 3 or 4 years ago, but they're still holding up strong. Samsung over-the-ear headphones.
So that has completed. And next we're going to, let's see what other utilities I can run on here. Everything's running really, really well. It's running exactly like I would expect it to. CPU-Z, we can verify that the CPU is being identified, recognized correctly by the motherboard. We can verify the RAM and that the speed of the RAM and all that. We can just double check it with this utility here. This tells us it's an AMD Ryzen 5 1600, which is correct. It tells us that it's running at, right now it's running at 1546.3 megahertz. The CPU will slow itself down to keep itself cool, and then when we press it to do more, it'll ramp back up to its maximum speed, which on the Ryzen 1600, I forgot what that speed is. It's over 3 gigahertz. On the main motherboard here, we can see the make and model of the board, along with the version of BIOS and the date. That's all good. On memory, it shows DDR4, 8 gigs. And individually, we can look at all the specifications of the RAM and which sockets are available and which ones are empty. That's really useful when working on a client's computer I've never seen before, where the lid and everything is, the covers are still on it. It kind of gives me an x-ray of what's going on inside. There's the GTX 1050 Ti made by ZOTAC. And the speeds it's running at, the 4 gigs of GDDR5 RAM. So all that is good. And then when we want to really push the computer, we go to Prime 95 and we run this. And what this does is it uses every core on the CPU at maximum. So it's basically like putting your foot all the way down on the gas pedal of the car and making it go as fast as it can go. And that's going to generate the greatest amount of heat. And after about 10 minutes, we can see how hot it ultimately ends up getting. You need to give it a little bit of time to start ramping up. This is a free utility called the CPU ID HW monitor, or hardware monitor. And it's really a bit of information overload. All I'm really interested in
is temperatures.
Are the core temperatures of the CPU. So you see that this shows
Core 0.
It's showing wattage use here. And I do see temperatures. It's not naming them off individually here. You'll see we're at 100% usage on all the cores. Each individual core is at 100% usage. This is the speed each core is running at, about 3.4 gig, which is the max speed. You have motherboard temperatures. There's different temperature sensors located throughout the board. The video card isn't being pushed real hard right now, so the GPU, or the graphics processing unit, is only at 24 degrees Celsius right now. We'd have to run a graphical benchmark to really push that. This is a CPU and RAM benchmark, and I guess the hardware monitor is having a hard time deciphering. Like normally I see core 0 temp, core 1 temp, etc., etc., and I'm not finding it here. So it's got to be these right up here that are these generic names. And I'm not using the latest version of this software, this HW monitor, so maybe the new version fixes that. But the hottest temperature I see here is 61 degrees Celsius. That's as hot as we've gotten. That's on, looks like core 4. And it shows you in parentheses Fahrenheit, so 62 degrees Celsius, 143 degrees Fahrenheit. And you say, well, what's the limit? Well, on a Ryzen, we'll look that up. Let's see what the max temp of Ryzen 1600 is.
$70 to 80 degrees Celsius at full load.
Anywhere below 80 Celsius is typical. So as long as we're below 80, we're good. And so far, we're below 70. So 64 is, you see, it's still kind of climbing up a little bit. Well, let's just let it run a few more minutes and let's see 65 now. And it's just that one core that's getting hot. You see, this core says it's at 16 degrees Celsius. That can't be right. That absolutely cannot be right. They should all be pretty similar, because it is maxing out all of the cores. And you can see they're all consuming the same amount of power. They're all right in about the same 9 to 11 volts, right in that range. So we are just maxing that CPU out. We're just having it go pedal to the metal, flat out, as hard as it can go. We'll let that run for about 10 minutes and we'll see what our max temps are. And as long as they're well below 80, actually as long as they're below 80, we're good to go.
Okay.
But it's just a nice little test to make sure.
So after this, if everything runs smoothly, it's some more cable management, putting the fan back and putting the sides in lid on.
Yeah, everything else is software, which, you know, it can be done at any point. We don't have to do it right now. But we just want to make sure that the critical software, which is your operating system and all the drivers for the graphics card, everything is working properly. And then other software like Microsoft Office or other browsers or games, yeah, you can install that anytime in the future.
Okay.
Oh, it's spam. I got spam on my phone. Delete. So that's what happened. Somebody called me from a blocked number.
Oh.
So my phone doesn't actually block the number. It just prevents it from ringing.
Okay.
And it doesn't even tell me that they called. So that explains why. I'm like, how did I get a voicemail if there was no record of a phone call?
Yeah.
Because they called me from a blocked, from a number that was being blocked by my phone. It's kind of a misuse of the word blocked, because it doesn't really block it. It just sort of doesn't let you know anybody's calling.
Yeah, like taking NyQuil when you're sick. It masks all the effects, but at the same point in time, you're still sick.
Right, exactly. All right. Let's see how we're doing here. The temperatures, highest temperature we're seeing 68 right now. So it's climbing, it's still climbing a little bit. That's 154 degrees Fahrenheit. We're still have 12 degrees Celsius of overhead, which is a lot. So I don't think we're gonna have anything to worry about, but I'll just let it run just a little bit longer. And let's see, let me grab, actually I can do other things while this is running, because all it's going to do is make it run harder.
Okay.
The harder we run it, the better. So I'm going to delete the crystal disk mark. We're done with that. Crystal disk info I don't even need. I don't know why I copied that over. Prime 95 we're using. CPU-Z we don't need anymore. Yeah, you know, this computer's running really, really well. This is the first Ryzen-based computer I've used, and I'm very impressed with it. It's actually running with no hesitations, even while Prime 95 is running. I'm used to a little bit of a hesitation between tasks when I'm at 100% CPU usage across all the cores, and yet this thing is just responsive,
Yeah.
despite the fact that all that's running. It's very impressive. A lot of people are new to the channel, or they've only been subscribing for the last year or two, and they haven't seen me build with AMD, and they think this is some sort of a milestone. I used to always build with AMD until Intel came out with the Core 2 Duo, or the Core Duo processor. And AMD has never been able to match it competitively ever since then.
Okay.
So for some people that have joined my channel in that window of time, only see me build with Intel and think that I'm an Intel fanboy, or I'm always interested in the best bang for the buck to meet the customer's needs. I don't care. I'm not specific to any manufacturer outside of the fact that I need a manufacturer that's going to have good support if we need it. So I choose manufacturers that I know are going to back me up. If my customer has a problem, it comes back to me. And I need to be able to take care of that customer. And there's not enough profit margin to be buying new motherboards or new parts. I need the manufacturers to be cooperative and responsive and quick to get me solutions so I can be equally responsive and quick to my customers.
Yeah.
So that's why I choose certain manufacturers. It's just a balance of best bang for the buck, really. Not buying the cheapest stuff because then it's going to cost me more in labor to maintain it.
Yeah.
We're not buying the most expensive stuff because a lot of times it's brand new stuff that's untested or hasn't been tested very long. I don't want to be a pioneer. We end up having to support a lot, and I lose money on the support.
Like how the Note 7 was like, hey, this is going to be a good phone, and then suddenly it explodes.
Yeah. You can imagine what a business nightmare that would be, legally speaking, if I sold a customer something that exploded.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it could put me out of business. I'm not a huge corporation with millions of dollars and lawyers on retainer. That would just shut me down. That would be the end of my business.
Yeah.
So I have to be very careful over what parts I choose because of that accountability and liability. And Intel or AMD, to me, they're both about the same as far as reliability goes. I'm not really aware of any compatibility issues. So it's really just a question of which one's going to accomplish the needs of the customer for the best value.
Yeah.
And the Ryzen processors have been a long time coming. They're still falling a little bit short in my opinion. But ultimately, I build what a customer wants. And if a customer wants a Ryzen or a Threadripper, I'm happy to build it. Nobody's ordered them. So I have a lot of business clients that are absolutely loyal to Intel.
Yeah.
For no other reason than that's what they've been using and they haven't had any problems, so why change it? And they're that way with their cars. I have a customer, he only buys Cadillacs. Ever since the 1970s. He only buys Cadillacs. So if I'm selling cars and he wants a Cadillac, then that's what I will get him.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the parts, again, that we're using in the build are listed in the video notes below this video. So if you're interested in any of the specifications of any of the parts, any of the warranty, pricing, it's all there on the links. You can click those links and see all the details for each individual component on the build. And let's see what our temps look like. We hit 70. Let it run a little bit longer. I'm very curious where it's going to max out at. As long as it keeps rising. Is that why they call it Ryzen? Because your temps, they are rising.
Someone mentioned MSI. They're normally build gaming laptops, right?
MSI is just another motherboard manufacturer. It's just like talking about Ford and Chevy and Nissan and Toyota. MSI, Gigabyte, Asus, there's a handful of them. I don't use MSI products because the support wasn't there, and they almost single-handedly put me out of business by failing to support their products. So when I was at the Consumer Electronics Show, the coolest stuff I saw was made by MSI, but I wouldn't buy any of it. I mean, if it was for me personally, I suppose I would, but I wouldn't recommend it to a customer where I would be held accountable or liable because I would just go out of business.
Yeah.
Well, at least that's the impression I was left with MSI. So I don't recommend MSI products because if it's not good enough for me to support it, then it's not good enough for me to recommend it.
Okay.
You know, whether somebody is my customer or they're a viewer on the channel, I'm not changing my advice for the viewers and telling my customers something different.
Yeah.
So people, a lot of the viewers, you know, they have never had to support a company, and so they'll say things that are completely disconnected with reality because they're not in that situation, and they can't even imagine it because they've never been in it, and their brain's not capable of comprehending that sort of financial legality of accountability when it comes to, you know, dealing with companies that are making, you know, potentially millions of dollars a year, and you've got a system that you built because you're insisting that no, this company's good, and then something happens to the system and the company can't operate, and they call you and you're expected to fix it, and it's something you can't fix. You've got to call the manufacturer, and the manufacturer won't be cooperative and it won't help you. Mm-hmm. Your customer doesn't care. Your customer just says, I need this machine up and running as quickly as possible. So what do? You walk away from it? Because if you walk away from it and say, well, I can't help you, manufacturer's not supporting me, and so if they don't support me, I can't support you, they're going to take their business somewhere else. They might even sue you.
Yeah.
So then you go, well, the right thing to do would be to just buy them a new motherboard, but I didn't even make enough money to pay for that on this whole deal.
Yeah.
But that's the price of being in business sometimes, and that's what happened with me with MSI. I had to buy 3 customers who don't even know each other, mm-hmm. who all had the same MSI board that I used. The boards caught fire.
Oh.
And it didn't cause any danger, thankfully, but a lot of smoke came out, and that did cause some concern. I had to buy all 3 customers brand new motherboards because MSI refused to cooperate with me, and then I just never used MSI again. So for people that are there watching and saying, I like MSI, they clearly don't run a business where they're selling it to others and are held accountable and liable to it. But if you're just building for yourself and you're the only one who's inconvenienced if it doesn't work, it's fine. And in fact, it'll probably work fine. It's just when you're selling 100 of them,
yeah,
the likelihood of having a bad one is going to be higher.
Yeah.
And then what the company won't stand behind and help you, even though you've just given them all this money. I've just sold 100 of your motherboards. They don't know you from anybody else, and they treat you the same as everybody else. And it's just not a company I can afford to do business with. I would just go out of business. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when I talk about the difference between what people say on the internet and real life experience wins hands down every time.
Yeah.
So it's not that MSI is bad. It's that they're every manufacturer makes a bad product. Mm-hmm. No manufacturer is 100% perfect, and I don't expect a manufacturer to be 100%. What I do expect is that if I have a problem, which should be rarely, that the manufacturer stands behind me and is easy to deal with and provides me a very fast, amicable solution. And so Gigabyte has done that for me, Asus has done that for me, EVGA and Corsair consistently have good support. And as long as they continue to do that, I will continue to purchase their products with that sort of peace of mind. Some people are more they're like gamblers. They're willing to spend less money on a cheaper part and take the gamble that it's going to be okay and I won't have to deal with it. And you know, it is what it is. Sometimes it works out, sometimes not. That's the whole thing of gambling. But I don't gamble with my business.
Yeah.
I think the screen just went to sleep. Max temp is 71. That's good.
Does having the sides off affect that temperature?
It probably won't.
Okay.
No. Again, if we were overclocking, or if you had a big video card in here, mm-hmm. it could. But basically, what we've got going on in here, shouldn't even, if we disconnect this fan or hook up this fan, it really won't make a difference more than 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. If it's not going to drop the temperature by at least 10 degrees, it's negligible to me. In other words, if we're at 81 and we can bring it down to 79, it's still too hot.
Yeah.
So if somebody can save 1 or 2 or 3 degrees Celsius by using a different thermal paste or by hooking up another fan, it doesn't make sense to me. It's just 2 or 3 degrees is just too wishy-washy with the inexact measurements we're doing, because this room temperature is constantly changing. This temperature, we don't really sense it because it's changed gradually, but since we started this test, I can assure you this room is not exactly the same temperature it was when we started. And as a result, our test results aren't going to be 100% accurate because we don't have a scientifically, hermetically sealed room that's precisely temperature controlled.
Yeah.
And that's overkill because we don't need any of that. We're not sending a rocket into orbit, you know. So these kind of details that people geek out over on the internet are often completely impractical and unrealistic. So I'm always trying to find a balance, you know. Some people just take things too far, in my opinion. So try and keep everything reasonable. So as long as we're running in a reasonable temperature range, and we've done everything reasonable with cooling, if it's all below 80, we're good. And hopefully doesn't get much hotter than it is right now. I think max I saw was 71.
It's still at 71.
I don't think we're going to see higher than 71. I'll be surprised. Yeah. And that's the hottest one. I mean, the coolest one here is at says 40. And this is the hottest. These are the peak temps over here on the right.
Okay.
So 72, it did hit briefly. Oh, no, it's at 72 now. So it's still climbing. Let's just let it keep running. And as long as it keeps climbing, I'll keep letting it run. And the software may not be 100% accurate either. That's the other thing. The software may be off by several degrees in its reading in either direction. So we take everything with a grain of salt. This is just ballpark numbers. Mm-hmm. Too many people live and die by them, I mean, virtually. I think a lot of people go looking at their temperatures when they don't have a problem or just looking for problems.
Okay.
Sometimes there's information overload and people freak out over something they shouldn't have been looking at to begin with.
I generally only check out temperature. Generally I work on laptops.
Unless you're having a problem you're trying to solve, you shouldn't be looking for a problem. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. I want to go back through all the contributions today. I don't know if I missed anybody, so let's see. So far, Søren Rasmussen has contributed 20, what did I say, these were Danish kroners? Don Bev has contributed $2. Stephen Sheik has contributed $20. PM Chris contributed £10. Matt Golding contributed £10. Jack Wilson contributed $50. Very generous, Jack. Thank you so much. Mike Wachik has contributed 25 Canadian dollars. Alberto Gorin contributed €2. Bob Barnes contributed £10. Lost Level Games contributed $100. Floyd's Ghost contributed $20. Jakey Pierce contributed £2. Mike Cullen contributed £2. Sosen contributed 200 Norwegian krone. Jonathan Mayberry contributed £10. Irving T contributed €10. Mark has contributed £5. Says, what a great channel. Really enjoying these family build videos. Snipes has contributed $1. So thanks to everybody who's contributed. And of course, thanks to all the moderators that are hanging out in the chat and keeping everything civil. Brytech says, with those contributions, you can now retire. I'm going to come move in with you, Brian. No, you're not. $72. We're up to 72. That's where it was before, right?
Yeah, it was.
So far, so good. Maybe just a couple more minutes, 2 or 3 more minutes. And that will be the gist of it.
Oh, someone asked if you have a Twitch account.
Yes. Yes, there's a Twitch account. It's not very active right now because there's just not a lot of people watching, and there's probably not a lot of people watching because it's not very active right now. So I haven't figured that balance out yet, but I'm working on it. But you can follow me on Twitch. Absolutely.
And if they have people who are interested, that, you know, might bump up the followers a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. So I think everything looks good. And I think we can go ahead and just power it off now. I don't think we're going to go any higher than 72.
Yeah.
And you're not going to run it that hard anyway. It's very unlikely you're going to push the computer that hard for this much time. Okay. Usually when people, through normal use, you're not going to hit all the cores normally for this length of time. If you were doing video editing, maybe, if you were doing something that was really, really CPU intensive, but certainly gaming and schoolwork, they're not going to do that. And so what I'm doing is I'm creating a worst case scenario by simulating just a full out, full throttle for a long, you know, an extended period of time, and then measure what the max temp is. As long as we're well under 80, we're fine. It's running nice and quiet. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. I'm impressed with AMD's stock fan. It's really good.
And the cords aren't hitting anything, which I'm sure helps a little bit.
Yeah, well, if the cords get in the way of the fan, that's bad times.
Yeah.
But that's why we do the cable management. We make sure that nothing, you know, when you transport this computer back to Oregon, that in that transport, the cables won't accidentally fall into the fan.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and close that down, and let's stop Prime 95 and get that closed out. I see the Bluetooth icon is there. All that is there. I'm going to delete Prime 95 and delete the hardware monitor. That's out of there. And then let's go to NVIDIA, and let's download the latest NVIDIA driver. That's the one that I would do. Some people talk about going to the BIOS and changing voltage settings. I don't agree with that. I don't think you should be in there messing around with it unless you absolutely know what you're doing and you're willing to accept the reliability risk that the computer may start crashing until you get those numbers adjusted just right. Best to leave all that on auto control and let the machine control it. You all have you have a warranty through all of your parts, and I think it's foolish to think you can outsmart the engineers, and so I don't recommend that. And we have an NVIDIA 10 series graphics chip. It's a 1050 Ti. I don't know why NVIDIA wants to know the specific model, because the driver is the same for every single one of those cards. Windows 10 64-bit, start search. There's the driver, 388.71, which was released on the 20th of December. It's a pretty fresh driver, and it's 442 megs. That's a huge driver. We're going to download and install that, and then we'll run a graphical benchmark, and we'll see how it performs.
Okay.
Brian says from this day forward, he's calling it cable control, not cable management. You have started a new cultural trend.
Yeah.
Cable control.
I wonder why they called it cable management instead of cable control, because control has that alliteration there, which is just like super kind of poetic almost.
I couldn't tell you. It wasn't my idea.
That's fair.
You've got to vote for cable control.
And Nintendo 360 too.
And the Nintendo 360, which Microsoft is not happy about at all. How dare you? Still have another 45 seconds or so before we have the NVIDIA driver downloaded.
I pour a liter of Sprite in my computer when it gets hot.
Brightech definitely is for cable control. Oh no, my cables are out of control. Is that what you're thinking?
I mean, yeah, actually it was.
Okay. It works. Control is more negative sounding.
I think it kind of just depends, because sometimes control can be like, you know, I gotta control this. Whereas on the other hand, management can have those same negative connotations just in a different way. So either way, you get like the good connotations of, oh yeah, I'm putting this together, with negative ones of,
Do
this
you
might have
control
force
your
and power.
boyfriend, or do you manage your boyfriend?
Neither.
Okay.
He's his own person.
Good answer. Okay, I was just checking. Just checking. All right, let's get this driver installed.
There is no monitor included in the build. I'm using a Samsung TV that I have in my room.
What size? Well, it's a dorm. It can't be that big, right?
Actually, I think it's about 30 inches. It's bigger than this.
Yeah, I think this is 27? No, 22? I can't remember.
Mine's probably about like that much bigger, approximately.
I think this is a 24, if that's a thing. I think it's got 24 in the model number.
Yeah.
I can't really, your eyes are better than mine. You might be able to see a model number either here.
Made in Mexico, date of MFGI March 2011.
Wow, 2011, that monitor's 6 years old already, almost 7.
It doesn't appear to have a size that I can read through the cables.
Yeah, everybody in the chat says it's 24. Sounds right. Of course, monitors are measured diagonally, so when you go to 30, you're actually adding a lot more than just, you know, going up to, you're actually adding more to the top and the size. Yeah. Get the NVIDIA graphics driver installed, and then we'll run a graphics test.
Okay.
Yeah, machine's nice and quiet. Everything went together pretty easily. It was very budget friendly for what you're getting in return for the performance and the storage, and the very budget friendly. I'm very, very happy with the build parts that Catherine recommended here. It's very well done. And then your improvements with regards to the case.
And the SSD.
And the solid state drive. And then of course I pointed out that power supply had that rebate, which made it a really good deal. So overall, I can't think of anything to improve it other than maybe adding an optical drive, which a lot of people that are viewing the video will say they don't use anyway.
Yeah.
What is the name of the antivirus you recommend? I recommend either Malwarebytes or MCSoft, EMSISOFT. One or the other, not both at the same time.
Cable mastering. Overclock the graphics card. That's when you put something even bigger in that doesn't necessarily, the more power and the more heat.
I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was making sure that I understood overclocking to be when you put in like a larger graphics card than this in terms of...
No, overclocking is taking something that was designed to go a certain speed by the engineers
Oh, okay.
and pushing it beyond that.
So the same thing, but pushed beyond.
Yeah, through software you can push the performance of it. It'd be like modifying a car to go faster than it was designed to run. And then when you do that, of course, you have to then modify the cooling because it's working harder than the engineers intended. You often void your warranty. That goes out the window. You have to replace your cooling system to accommodate the additional. If you just leave it the way the engineers intended it to be, you'll probably have a more reliable and ultimately a faster computer, because a computer that's crashed isn't fast at all.
Yeah.
So some people just like playing with that, though. I just don't have that kind of time, and I can't be held liable or accountable to a customer because they're getting 10% more speed when they're not even utilizing the speed they've got now, except in little bursts. Doesn't make any sense.
So in short, no, I'm not planning on overclocking any of this.
Well, you can't. You don't have a Ryzen X processor. The Ryzen processors that end in the letter X and the Intel processors that end in the letter K can be overclocked. Those that do not, there's still a way to do it, but then it gets even more complicated. And certainly for somebody who doesn't know what overclocking is, you wouldn't start there. You know, you have to learn to walk before you run.
Yeah.
So this computer is going to be plenty fast, and there'd be no reason for you to overclock it. And the amount of money you would need to spend on cooling, you could invest on a faster CPU to begin with. So everything looks good here. Let me go and see if I've got the utility for the graphics test. Let's see. It's been a while since I ran it. So I'm going to install this, but then we can, unless you want it to show to friends, it's really just there to measure the performance. This is 3D Mark 11, and this is, I'm sure, not the latest version. It's just what I have on the server.
Okay.
But it'll be good enough for now. Obviously, when you're doing performance benchmarks, you're always, if you want your results to be accurate, and I assume you would want to download the latest version to ensure that those measurements are as accurate as possible. But for this, we just want to be in the ballpark. We just want an idea. So, yeah, it's telling us there's an update. Let's go ahead and update it.
So this gives numbers versus, like, if I were to log into Steam and check it that way, that would be just through looking and seeing is there lag, kind of?
Steam has a performance checker as well, but ultimately, I honestly think people become sort of these technical hypochondriacs when they start measuring things with benchmarks to determine if their computer is fast or not. The only one who can tell you if your computer is fast is you.
Yeah.
No software can tell you it's fast accurately. It's either doing everything you expected to do or it's not. And if it's not, then you should go looking for what the solution is. If everything's working fine for you, to go and start looking for problems means you just have a lot more time on your hands than I have, and I shake my head at it because I'm like, I can't even comprehend why somebody would invent problems. You know, why somebody who's not having problems would go looking for them.
Yeah.
Because I get paid every single day to solve problems. There's no shortage of problems to solve. This concept of creating one just is unfathomable to me. I just can't get that frame of mind. I can't. It's just not within me to do it. Not when there's so much work to be done. Let me see. Let's go back to the PC testing software. All right, let's run 3D Mark. And let's run it, see what it does. This is kind of cool to watch. You know, it is kind of fun to show off your computer, you know. And it'll give us some baseline. This is you can download the free version of this, so if people watching want to compare how their computer performs against this, they can run the same test. But this will work the heck out of the graphics card. Telling me that all the Ryzen CPUs are unlocked and therefore can be overclocked, but even still, you'd really want the X Ryzen chip. It doesn't make sense to me to buy a slower chip and try to overclock it when you could spend less money to just buy the faster X version of the chip.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you can overclock that to go even faster.
The graphics are pretty nice. I wonder how they'd look with an HDMI cable instead. Not like let's disconnect and reconnect.
I don't think you're going to visually see any difference. The DVI cable is, at this resolution, isn't going to make any difference to a human eyeball.
Oh.
On a bigger screen at a higher resolution where your eye can detect it, then HDMI would be superior. But what we're doing here today, it would just... The thing about audio and video is it's very subjective. What you see, like if I hook up an HDMI cable and you tell me you can see a difference, even though scientifically I know you can't, I can't tell you you're not seeing a difference. Like if you're convinced you are, then you are, right? That's as good as reality. So, you know, there are certain situations like 4K, you'd have to have HDMI to see 4K, for example. And then you're not going to be able to even notice 4K on a screen smaller than like 32 inches. Your eye can't. But again, if you're convinced you can, nobody can argue with that. And that's why I don't review keyboards, I don't review headphones, and I don't review monitors. It's all very subjective to what something feels like. It'd be like suggesting food. Everybody's got different taste buds.
Yeah.
And what I think is the best thing in the world, someone could think is the nastiest. And neither one of us is wrong. So I just avoid that whole discussion. It seems pointless. And let's see how we're doing on this test. I think because this is the free version, it runs you through the demo of what it should look like. And then once the demo runs, then it'll start really pushing and you should start seeing like a FPS or frames per second. And ideally, it'll push the video card hard enough that we actually see it kind of stutter and really work the graphics card hard. And we'll see what kind of numbers we get. And like I said, people watching can download 3D Mark 11 and run their own benchmark and compare it against this or against other data. There's a database that 3D Mark keeps with a record of people's configuration so that you can compare similar configurations. This test takes a few minutes to run, but it's pretty to look at. Now it's doing the tests. Now we should start seeing a frames per second appear.
Yeah.
So it showed us like before the test run, it runs a demo. So it shows us like what it should look like. And then it runs the tests where it really pushes the graphics card hard. Now this would be where we would monitor our graphics card temps if we wanted to. I'm not worried about it. Again, it's as long as it's performing well and there doesn't seem to be anything wrong, I'm not going to go looking for a problem. I see Brytech is laying down the law in the chat room. Thank you, Brytech. Thanks for keeping everything civil. What sort of frames per second? I can't see it from here. Can you tell me?
55, 56, 57. 58.
Anything over
60.
30 is good.
I know it was down at 30 at one point in time, but now it's in the 60s.
Yeah, it should struggle. In some of these tests, it should really struggle. We want to see that. We want to see it really work in that graphics card. Does she get lifetime tech support from Uncle Carey? Of course.
Whose lifetime?
Whichever. Probably mine. Pretty sure it requires us both to be alive for that to work. Has she been warned about wanting to make another PC? I warned her in part 1. I don't know. She enjoyed it. It wasn't what's the word I'm looking for?
Fourth? Doesn't seem like quite the right word.
It wasn't addictive to you.
But at the same point in time, I'd do it again.
But it wasn't miserable either.
Yeah.
It wasn't not enjoyable. You did enjoy it. But it's not like you're like, I gotta build one right now. But
It's changed a little since yesterday.
Since
I look
yesterday,
at that
you've
and I
had
go,
some time
oh,
to
what
think
else
about
can
it?
I do?
oh really?
Yeah, like
oh.
cable management and I could move this here and do that.
No, it's cable control.
Yes.
We'll start correcting you back the other way. You're gonna leave more confused than when you got here.
That's
Ice maker.
got it.
Overclock your cable control. There you go. There you go. Just start throwing those words around the IT department. What's the weather in Arizona?
Think we should rag a little?
Just go to Google and type in, what's the weather in Arizona? Or more specifically, what's the weather in Phoenix? I have no idea. I'm inside.
Oh, it's supposed to get into the 70s today with a high at about 75 degrees Fahrenheit, even though the day started out at about 35 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty close to 0 Celsius. I don't know what the other one is. No snow, sun's out, everything's bright, everyone's here for the Rose Bowl, like no scraping ice out of the driveways.
How about Oregon?
Oh, Oregon is kind of rainy.
Kind of rainy? What a shock.
Actually, I was there from about August 15th through about December 16th, and in that time it rained probably 10 times max.
That's all?
Yeah, it's we're having the same dry spell that California's having.
All right, so our score was P9444. So I don't know what the P is for, but 9,444 with the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050 Ti with an AMD Ryzen 5 1600. So in the scope of things, this is the number down here, 9,444, compared with a maximum number here of 18,481. Mm-hmm. But you have to spend a lot more money to get to these numbers up here.
Okay.
And this is just details of the specifications of everything. Reported stock core clock is 3.2 megahertz, 3,200 megahertz, which is 3.2 gigahertz.
Okay.
14 nanometer AM4 is the socket, 65 watt power usage, 64-bit Windows 10. This all just confirms the hardware that we're running. So that's the results of 3D Mark. Do you want that on there, or do you want me to remove it?
You can probably remove it since I can notice, oh, this is lag, this is not lag.
Yeah. Whoops, I'm in the wrong place. I want to go to Programs. Apps. There it is. 3D Mark will uninstall. Wow, that uninstalled fast. Holy smokes, that was fast. Wow. Good.
That was impressive.
Yeah, I'll say. Took a while. It took a lot longer to install it, didn't it? I mean, it just went like that. Let's see how long it takes to boot. Let's shut it down. Wait for the light to go out. I'm going to grab my timer. I think my batteries are going. I can barely see it.
Oh.
And I'm going to hit the power button and the timer at the same time. And we'll see what it says. I don't know if the camera will pick that up or not. We'll see.
No.
See if you can just
I
shift it a little left or right
casually
to see if...
put this just in the corner.
Oh, that's good. 22 seconds.
22.
Nice. Very nice. And dead quiet.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my microphone and I'm just going to place it right into the fans so people can hear. And right down in there, you can hear the fans when you're that close.
Yeah. I can hear that one, but it's quieter than like most fans I've heard.
That's quiet.
Yeah,
I would
the
build
mic was
another
muted.
Ryzen. I would recommend another Ryzen. I'm very, very happy with the performance. Happy with the way everything has come together. That Windows 10 has loaded all the drivers we need. That's not to say that there might be some drivers from the manufacturer that might be a little more optimized. However, they could also be a little buggy as well. So it's kind of a personal preference if you want to go to the manufacturer of the motherboard, if you want to go to the website and pull down individual drivers. A lot of manufacturers have stopped offering. Turned off or something? Oh yeah, batteries. So the batteries are going out on the wireless receiver. So let me get these batteries changed out. Give me just a...
One of them was like, "Do you notice me?" So I waved, and now they're all waving back.
Yeah, careful what you start. Okay, so now we should be back up in business and everybody should be able to hear us okay. I guess it's weird because all the batteries were replaced at the same time. And yet these batteries are full strength.
Same.
Yeah, but that battery in the receiver ate the batteries twice as fast. So I'll just have to remember that next time I use the this particular microphone setup. I only use this one when I've got a guest so we can each have a microphone. I like my other This isn't made by Sony. This is like, it looks a lot like the Sony setup. This is made by Ceramonic. And they aren't cheap. But thankfully, like I said, I've got rechargeable batteries, or this thing would break me in the cost of batteries. It goes through them. Let's see. What was I talking about before? Oh, we've just got a little wrapping up to do here, buttoning up to do of the system. We've got a little cable management to finish.
Cable control. Cable control.
Cable control, thank you for correcting me. And then we've got to put the fan back on here. You can decide if you want to hook the front fan up or if you want to leave the side fan hooked up. That's up to you. I don't have a splitter. We could hook them both up, or you can disconnect both of them. It'll make no difference as far as the way you use the computer. It will make no difference to you.
Okay.
In Arizona, I wouldn't hook the front fan up unless the system was being overclocked or there was a great big, 1080 graphics card in there or something, because it just brings in so much dust. You're not going to have that problem in Oregon. Yeah. So I'm going to just go ahead and hit this button, and that's going to shut it down. And then what I would like you to do is to put the little cover over the hard drive area back on. We can do that on camera. So let's just get this disconnected, and let me have you put this little cover back on, which
yeah, I can.
There's that piece. And the thumb screws right there. Well, I've got 3 more systems that need to be built and 2 that are repaired. Ready to get to work?
I'm down.
Good answer. You want the screwdriver, or are you just going to tighten those down by hand?
Screwdriver would be good.
Here you go.
Thank you. I figure maybe there's the possibility that something could be seen if I'm down here.
Brytech wants me to crack out the drinks. Brian, she's not old enough to drink. This isn't Britain. I think you only have to be 18 or 19 in Britain to drink.
Yeah, and 19 in Vancouver, Canada, 18 in Quebec, 18 in Mexico.
There you go. You're on top of it. Yeah, Brytech says 18 in London, in England. They're suggesting you should negotiate your hourly wage with me before you get started. Whose side are you guys on? Come on.
And then...
Somebody says 21 in New Jersey, like it would be any different. All the states are the same. It's 21 across the United States.
Oh, 16 in Belgium.
That's not the United States.
Yeah. I didn't know Vermont was in the U.S. until I was about 14.
Oh, okay.
But
that was a long time ago, though.
Yeah. Still
That's
14
totally acceptable.
though.
That's still acceptable.
Huh.
Now, do you want to do some more cable control?
Yeah, just a bit.
Did you put that on? Is that how it went in? It was, or did it go the other way with this? Did it go in or did it go out? I don't remember. Not that it really even matters. That's just my nerdiness.
Oh, this part?
I'm saying, what prevents this from being flipped around the other way? Anything? I guess there's a notch cut out here. It can only go on one way. I'm answering my own question.
Okay.
It's all good. You did a good job.
Thank you.
I don't know this case, so that's why I wasn't sure. For some reason, I just thought, if it can be put on backwards, that's the way I would put it on.
Yeah.
Negative 37 degrees Celsius here in Canada. Well, that's why you can drink younger. Got to keep you warm.
Do you have the rest of the zip ties?
Oh, you need zip ties. We have those right here. Actually, let's use these up. These came with the case.
Okay.
Or the power supply. And I think there's some in the motherboard box. We have some zip ties in here we can use. And so everything else we've got left over, that's all spare parts. This is your antenna. You'll take this out, you know, when you get it back at the dorm room and get yourself hooked up on the Wi-Fi. And zip ties. Yeah, there's 2 more.
Okay, just a sec.
I'll just set them there because I think there's more in here. You got all your Go Faster stickers in here, so you can, if you decide you want to make your computer go faster, there's about 4 of them in here. One for the motherboard, one for the CPU, one for the graphics card.
Okay, so there was an extra hole that could be used for a screw on the back side of the fan. Since there's no screw that goes there, there's nothing that attaches. I used that hole to put a zip tie through to hold the
Good
cables
idea.
there.
Good idea.
Okay.
That's the kind of thinking you need when you do cable management. You got to look at space that you're not using and whether or not that's a good area to use either for the cable tie or for the cables themselves. Good.
5 in China?
Hey, what's that guy doing? Hey, you stop that. I see you. Gotta watch that guy.
I think it's actually fairly under control now.
The cables?
Yeah,
Are fairly under control?
fairly under control. Not like fully like this is the best control ever, but it's enough of under control.
There's no such thing as perfect when it comes to cable management.
Yeah, I think that's about as good as it's going to get.
Let me take a look at
from
your
what I've
handiwork
seen.
here. Let's show. Okay,
It's a
what about
mess,
these
but you
cables?
can't see it.
What about these cables here? You want to keep these together, or does it not bother you?
It doesn't bother me
Doesn't
since
bother
they're
you?
already shaped
Remember,
together.
but you've got a window that's going to be right up here, and people are going to be able to see down in.
Yeah.
Of course, you're probably going to have your monitor up here.
Yeah. Can I? I'm not
no,
gonna put
no.
this
Here,
on.
let me make a minor suggestion before you grab any. I don't want you to grab any of that. Just come back over here. Just leave that. Just leave it. Come here.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
The screws fell.
I know. That's fine.
Okay.
I wanted to talk to you about this. You see these cables here and
Yeah.
how they're blocking this fan?
Yes.
Is there a way you can cable these so that they all go around the fan?
I think I
do you have
tried
enough
that,
slack?
but they were too.
Well, I know this one will.
This one.
This one will right here.
And this one right here.
I think these will all go around.
Okay.
I think you're going to have to undo your
I can do that.
zip tie, and you need some wire cutters. I put those away. Here they are.
Thank
Try
you.
and, whoops, just try and keep your fans clear. It probably doesn't make much of a difference, but it's going to make working on it in the future much, much easier. Well, there's people in the chat telling you what parts you should have bought. Wasn't that nice of them to reach in your wallet and tell you how to spend your money?
Yeah.
They're so thoughtful, aren't they? Let's see. Take the rest of these zip ties out. And we'll set those here. 200 Norwegian kroner can upgrade the RAM. 200 Norwegian kroner is around 25 US dollars. You wouldn't even get close to upgrading the RAM. Be nice if you could, though. You'd need about 10 times that amount to go to 16 gigs. Oh, these people talk. Funny. There's some funny people on the internet. There are some genuinely funny people. Carrots says, hey, Carey from North Carolina, your videos help me build my PC. That's awesome, Carrots. William Kawiti says, hello from New Zealand. William Kawiti's a Kiwi? I just wanted to say that out loud. Didn't sound as funny as I thought it would. Michael Ram says hello from Germany. You think he's part of Ramstein? Look at Lyle. Isn't that funny? Just sticking his head in the doggy door. Like, what's going on in here?
Do I want in?
You guys got any food? Is that food packages I hear? Oh, he's coming in. Kiwi jokes are overplayed. Do a New Zealand accent, Carey. Oh my gosh. I can't do a New Zealand accent. I could do an Australian accent, which many Australians will probably say sounds like I'm British. Crikey, I'm a lummox. There's Brightech. How's that cable control coming over there? Sure looked busy.
Yeah, it's
you rerouting
like
some cables?
50 cables going in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't be afraid to disconnect cables and reroute them. Don't be afraid of that. And you're not, clearly. Steady on, steady on. Don't quit your business, Carey. Your impressions are bad. Do you watch Rick and Morty?
Yeah, I haven't seen the new season though. I haven't had access to it.
I think my Rick Sanchez impression is pretty cool. They might disagree.
Gone somewhere.
I think the one secret to cable management is don't be afraid to use a lot of zip ties.
Yeah, I've
And
lost
don't be
track.
afraid to make mistakes and have to cut away a zip tie. They don't cost very much money. So if you put one on and you decide that's not a good place, or you accidentally skipped a cable in the loop, just cut it free.
Oh.
Put another one on.
I was doing it without cutting it free. Like, okay, I'll group these 2 cables and then these 3 cables and then...
Well, if you can do it without cutting the cable, without cutting the cable tie, that's fine, obviously. But if you have to, they're they're very cheap. So
Yeah. looks decent.
All right, let me take a look at your work. Let's show it off. Let's see what we got.
Zip ties haven't been cut in case like I need to take them off or something.
Go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Go ahead and cut the little pigtails off the zip ties so it'll look nice and as nice as it's going to look. Let's find out from the audience what they have to say about your cable control.
Dun dun dun. How many people? Like 800 something? We're gonna get a lot of different responses. It's gonna be interesting.
They're all going to say it's awesome. They're all going to support you and encourage you.
Okay. Do we move the camera?
Are you done already?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you had more to cut.
Just 3.
Oh. Okay, so here's the logic, guys. Here's the top of it where there's a window where you're going to be able to see down. But there's no window in the front, so the idea of cable managing anything down in there seems like a waste of time since nobody's ever going to see it. If I could kind of hold it on an angle, maybe show you the inside a little better. So these cables right down in here, we're just going to leave those loose, right? We don't want to cable tie those. That's fine. And, you know, obviously from this angle here, you can kind of see it's a little messy, but
From the sides, it just looks like cords.
one of the differences, when you cable, let's say you were to cable manage all of this, what you could end up doing is making it harder to work on because you'd have to cut the cables free to get any slack to move things around. On the other hand, by cable managing them, you also free up some space with regards to being able to get your hand in there without moving cables around and potentially disconnecting. So it's pro or con depending on your perspective. If you're happy with it, you're not going to have great cable management in a mini ITX case. It's just you do the best you can with what you've got. I do like how you've routed these cables here up over the fan. I like that a lot. It's very practical. It keeps the fan clear. There's no way any of these cables will drop into that fan when it's being moved from here to Oregon and driving in a car, or if it's being shipped. I'm not sure how you guys are doing that, but just by doing it this way, it ensures it's just impossible for anything to interfere with that fan. This big fan has a big grate on it.
Yeah, can I?
So nothing can get in there, and that's going to be on this side, right? This is the side that faces this is going to draw air in. Remember what we talked about? The spinning part is where it draws air in.
Yeah.
And then the frame and the logo that doesn't spin, that's the side the air comes out. So you want to put that back in?
Yeah.
And you need the screws for that, which are right here.
Do we want to use a zip tie rather than this twist tie?
Yes, we want all zip ties removed. Good catch.
Cool.
Now would be a good time to do that. And you just want to leave that fan disconnected, is that your plan?
Yep.
And just keep this fan here?
I feel like having an air out with 3 airs in should be okay.
You don't need any air in because nature will ensure through something called a vacuum that any fan blowing out will create a natural vacuum to automatically draw air in.
Oh, okay.
The only time you ever really need to draw air in is if you want it to blow over something to cool it. And look at that. People say, nice cable management. Hey, that's pretty good.
Cables are under control.
Very nice. Thank you for the kind words, guys. Appreciate that.
How did this go in? Is it diagonal?
Hey, what's going on in here, guys? I'm Pickle Rick. I've turned myself into a pickle. Morty. Morty, what are you doing? Where you at, Morty? Anybody seen Morty? This kid's a pain in my neck. Summer, is that you, Summer? I can't recognize people because I'm a pickle.
Okay. So I know this is, I can't figure out how to put this back in.
Oh, yes, you can. I believe in you.
Okay. I mean, I'm seating it right and everything. It just is like I'm not going in.
So there's some parts of being a teacher where you really want to help somebody, and there's other parts where you need to kind of stay away and let somebody,
Figure it out.
I know you got this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just let you work with it a little bit, because I think that would be more beneficial than if I told you.
Wow, that is weirder than I thought it would be. Okay. I think the whole thing goes in rather than just the...
Now, when you put that in, do you think about were the cables coming out of it, or
There were no cables coming out.
does it matter to you if your logo was right side up on the other side? Some people care about stuff like that.
Let's see. Yeah, this is about the same as it was when I took it out.
Some people care about things that really don't matter, but I'm just pointing that out
Yeah.
because I don't know if it matters to you or not. Somebody said it's pizza time. It's always pizza time.
Especially in college. It's like,
Yeah, I
hey, at
imagine.
dinner, want pizza? Sure. We're having an event, free pizza? Sure. We don't want to leave our dorm rooms to go eat? Let's get a pizza.
You have that pizza from last night that you didn't put in the refrigerator that's been sitting on a shelf all day? Yeah, it's
Totally
good
still
breakfast.
good.
It's totally fine. 3 days old? It's fine. It's pizza.
Wait, Vermont is in America, right? Like, I'm not crazy?
No, they're playing.
It's
with
a
you.
state?
They're playing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up by New Hampshire.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful state.
we drove
I'm
through
told.
it on the way to Dartmouth.
I've never driven through it. I've never been there. I've never been to New England. I plan to go someday. I guess you have to leave the house to do that. That goes against my nerdiness to go outside. I could turn to dust.
If you've been in Oregon, Vermont looks fairly similar, at least the wilderness aspect.
I have been to Oregon. The sun, it burns. You remember how that goes in?
Nope, but I'll figure it out.
You got to put the bottom in first. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Thanks. Okay, bottom goes in those things. And it either goes in this way, which it does. Cool. The front's put together minus the metal part.
Well, let's grab that front cover that snaps on the front.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Done. And let's grab a side panel. Pick a side panel. That's the top.
Okay.
We'll do that one last.
Okay. There are a couple screws that are on the floor because...
That's fine. I'll get them.
Okay. There we go. That side panel's on. Oh, is it loose down here?
No, I'm just looking to see. It looks like a little bowed right here. But that just may be the way it is.
Oh.
Yeah,
This, okay.
That's good. And no, you don't need to go that far back.
Yeah, it was just to line things up a bit.
Keep going forward. Forward, forward, forward. Right about there. There you go.
Oh.
Then make sure all the little...
Yeah.
So you'll see, if you look at how it's working, you'll see these little things sticking out, and you see these holes and how they narrow in. So this is the point where they've got to go in.
Yeah.
And that's how much it moves forward. And then you've got it on the bottom as well.
There we go.
And then we'll grab the top.
Is this... Okay, good. And the top was like
Man, we
this.
got a lot of we got a lot of wire ties here.
Yeah.
There you go. Very good. And now, there's a bunch of thumb screws. We'll turn this around here so everybody can see.
And those go into place to keep.
Should go to here.
I see.
We are not hooking up the front fan because there's only one spare fan header and 2 spare fans, and she really doesn't need either fan. It really doesn't affect the performance of the computer at all.
There's also a case in front of the fan that you'd have to pop open every time you turn on the computer.
No, you wouldn't.
Because the fan's right behind this.
Yeah, but it can breathe behind it. It's not an airtight system. That only covers, if you put your fingers in there, you can feel there's a gap. That's so the air can be sucked in through the sides and bottom.
Okay.
That's intended to only open when you need to clean the filter.
Okay.
Oh, we still have to put Windows 10 product key and activation in.
Yeah.
I almost forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me, chat room. Now that we've got it all buttoned up, we need to power it on one more time and make sure it still works. So let's go ahead and set that back over. Did I leave the mouse plugged into it, or did I? No, I moved it over here. Okay, so let's put that back in.
Power cord.
Fire it up.
Okay.
It's even quieter now with the covers on.
That makes no noise. That's
How does
really
it look
cool.
from above?
The logo's on backwards.
You don't
from
even
that
see the
angle.
cables. You only see the motherboard cable.
Yeah, there's a little bit of cabling here, but you can't see anything else.
I was going to say, I don't see it. This was only sitting here overnight, and look how dusty it's already gotten. Just overnight.
Yep, everything's powered up. Should we try and figure out why this front thing is
Yeah, I'm gonna check, make sure both those front USB ports are working.
Okay.
I'm
Oh,
gonna-
it seems like it just took a longer time to be able to connect because it's fine now.
What's that?
It seems like it's just taking a longer time to connect because it's fine now. Like, right when I put it in.
Well, let's see if it sees this flash drive. This is the BIOS that I used earlier.
Okay.
It's blinking, that's a good sign. It sees it. And you're obviously plugged into the other USB, so that's working. Go ahead and
Take no action.
then disconnect it
Yeah.
or eject it. Thank you.
No problem. That was fast. Like it just said you're safe.
Yep. That's what I like to see. Well, there it is, from numerous boxes into just one box. It is good to go, ready to rock and roll. We have to put a product key in and activate Windows. We don't need to do that on camera because we don't need everybody to know your product key.
Yep.
So we'll take care of that off camera. And Brytech says, good job. I agree. Good job. People want to know what your major is. What's your major?
I'm of all things, a creative writing major. It's actually closer to an English major with an emphasis of creative writing. I've always been pretty good at and enjoyed English, well, always as an after middle school. And I took the classes that I knew I'd enjoy. I also do have 2 jobs. One of them is working minor tech stuff for my school. So we've done everything from helping a professor learn how to use cut and paste to replacing hard drives. So it's a lot of
the students were teaching the professor?
Yeah. It's a lot of types of IT knowledge, but not very in-depth for most of it. I also work tutoring GED students, and teaching is more the career I'd like to go into.
Do you speak any other languages?
Hablo español, pero solamente un poquito. I want to get better and I want to become fluent, but...
Anything other than Spanish?
No, I took Hebrew for a few years, but the only word I remember is famine.
Shalom, you gotta know shalom.
Yeah, but like the only interesting, not like, everyone knows shalom, I feel like. No? Okay. In my experience, I've known a lot of people who know like shalom, but the only like real word that was not in a remedial class that stuck with me was ra'av, which is famine.
Yiddish.
Oh, yeah. I can take a schluffy and I know what schmutz is, but that's about the extent
Thanks
of my
to
Yiddish.
your grandfather.
Yeah.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Not even a little.
Parlez-vous en France? Wow, I really missed that. Parlez-vous en France?
The only thing I can say is, do you speak English and French?
Do you what?
Do you speak English is all I know how to say in French.
Yeah.
Ah, verklempt. Isn't that a loan word? Like we still have that in English even though it's from like...
It's Yiddish.
I have no Scottish Gaelic in my vocabulary. No Danish.
All you gotta do is go, ach, blach, lach, ach, lach, lach.
I do know how to say...
Nasse.
I do know how to say ambulance in German. Is that Latin?
I learned the critical
No, that's
things,
Russian.
so if I should be kidnapped one day and wake up in different countries, I can say, for example, una cerveza, por favor.
A beer, please?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or I can say, un bier bitte. So beer, please, in German.
Okay.
I think I said that right. In France, it is une bière, s'il vous plaît. I haven't figured out how to say it in English yet. I think you ask for a beer in England by just going, oi! I think that's all it is. Will you install defrag tools? No, you never, ever, ever defragment memory, solid state memory,
Okay.
or memory cards like that come out of a cell phone or a digital camera. You don't defragment solid state. Only mechanical drives, and then Windows actually takes care of that for you automatically. Mm-hmm. And so just avoid. My best advice, if you want a reliable computer, avoid installing software unless it's absolutely needed. I'm just noticing this little back cover here isn't straight. It's really bugging my OCD. I'm gonna have to fix that. Let's take this cover off. See that? Look at it.
Yeah. I think it
crooked.
should be just this.
You think just that's all we have to
Yeah.
take off?
I think it's both, but mostly just this one.
All right, let's take that off. Just a little slot covers on, a little cattywampus. You know that word?
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like something Shel Silverstein or Dr. Seuss would. No.
And then after you ask for uno cerveza por favor, then you go, donde está el baño?
Baño.
That's the word.
Yeah.
When Camille's friends see this PC, they're gonna be asking her to build one for them.
My room doesn't fit very many, but that might happen.
Do I know any New Zealander slang? No, I'm afraid I don't.
Oh, that is a bigger fix then. Wait, if I can put this on that way, then that can
You
move
guys
that.
know pretty good Spanish. Hola, me llamo Carey. ¿Cómo está? Mucho
Gracias.
gusto. But if anybody talks back to me, I have no idea what they're saying.
There we go, that's forward. That's forward.
And then I'll show you how to download more RAM.
We've gotten that question actually.
How to download more RAM?
There was another person that came in. She was kind of elderly, and she was like, "Hey, so I've always kept my laptop."
Wait, when you say kind of elderly, give me an age range. How old do you think this person was?
She had white hair. And
Steve Martin has had white hair his whole life.
Well, I think the question gives away the age a little bit more.
Not always.
That's fair.
Come on, give me a number.
60 something?
Okay, good. Whew,
Yeah,
I'm still
not
a ways
you.
away from being elderly.
And she came in because she was wanted to connect to the internet at her house. So I'm like, okay, she's running Windows 7, so I go down, I hit the internet thing, and I say, okay, this is how you connect. Just click whatever your home network is, type in the password, and you'll be good to go. Well, I don't have Wi-Fi at my house, so how do I use the internet there? Eventually, it became more of a...
Good question.
Yeah.
How do you use that? You tell me how you use your internet at your house. Somebody was saying something back to me in Spanish. I missed it. It scrolled up. Mi perro es muy amable.
Your dog is very amiable?
Friendly.
That's what amiable means.
Then in that case, yes. I'm not very amiable.
It depends on the day, from what I've seen. Or the minute.
Are you suggesting I'm bipolar? No, you're tripolar, quadpolar.
Yeah, it might be better for you to get in and straighten it out a little bit.
Not able to do it?
I'm semi-able to do it. It's not sticking.
Is it so every time you tighten it down, it bends over?
It's not that. If I move this over, this goes that way. Until...
No, I don't want you to move it. I just want you to make it flush.
There we go. That's...
Does that
But
look...
these should be like more in the center rather than at the edge.
Well, let's take the lid off of here. Did you not put the other one on? We're missing one?
I got it.
There you go. Normally you would do this with the computer off.
Oh, I can...
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Okay.
There's this screw.
No, I want that one in.
Oh, okay.
I see the graphics card is in the way, so I have to take this panel off. This sometimes happens after you put the panels on. That's why the panels are the very last thing you put on. This stuff is stuff you should have just double checked before. Not a big deal to take it back off. There we go. Now go ahead and put those two screws back in.
Okay.
I see how that happened now because the graphics card sort of, it takes up both slots.
Okay.
But they only give you one
we go.
slot cover. They should have given us two. Not sure why
No,
they...
there was another one.
I'm saying that it should have been part of this. This should be one large piece of metal that covers both of these.
Okay.
Since you can't use this because the rest of the graphics card is behind it.
Okay. I can name the letters, half of them of the Hebrew thing, but I can't read it.
There you go. Oh, someone's writing.
That says shalom. I have that one memorized because I did get to see some of that build, but I get bored very easily, so I think I clicked out after about 2 minutes.
Of what?
The build with ZOTAC.
The what?
Did Camille get to see any of the build you did with your dad?
Oh.
That also says Shalom, and then it has letters after that.
Mm-hmm.
Men Yud Shin Resh Aleph Lamed.
CB DeCat says, Dear Carey, this really is a nice video to watch together with your niece. I like this. I wish you both all the best for the year 2018. Thank you. That's very nice of you to say.
I don't play much World of Warcraft. I started playing. The RPG system wasn't necessarily the kind that I prefer, in that it wasn't completely immersive. And I found out that once you get to the higher levels, it's mostly about multiplaying with other people, like around the world and such. But most games that involve that sort of cooperation between me and a bunch of other people I haven't met, especially as I'm learning the game, isn't something I have gone for yet. Okay, I think those are tightened in it.
So, this is going to get old, but for now, you know, when a Jedi reaches a certain level of skill, they build their own lightsaber.
Oh.
But in our family, when you reach a certain level of skill building a computer, you get your own screwdriver. So I'm sending you home with that because you've earned it. And so if you need to do any repairs or upgrades, not only just for yourself, but now your friends that know you can do it, you will have that tool. And it won't just work on computers. This will work on anything that uses a Phillips. You'll be surprised how handy that little screwdriver will be. My little yellow-handled screwdriver I've got in here, oops, sorry. This has been with me since 1994. And if this thing could talk, it would just say, kill me. No, I don't. But it's helped me fix and build a lot of computers, and it's just the tool I rely on more than any other. So there are people that are be jealous of your cheap screwdriver. You're like, this is all I get? Just some piece of junk screwdriver?
No.
Hey, there are people in the world, I don't know where these people are.
One says shop in the UK, so.
Well, there's people in the UK that wish they could have they're jealous of you right now. Was that selling it at all? No, it's still pretty lame.
I think it's totally fine. I do have a screwdriver with removable heads, but I don't know where it is.
Is it magnetized?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think so. But
well, and this, you can also put more bits in there, you know,
Yeah.
I just have the number 2 Phillips because that's the main type of screw you're going to deal with most computers.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's a number 1 with the really fine screws, but this driver's generally just too physically large for that type of screw anyway. But it's been a very handy tool. In fact, that's the exact same model number as the yellow-handled one I've got.
Huh.
But for some reason, the manufacturer has changed it after all these years. People can buy these screwdrivers online. They're very inexpensive, and then you go get the bits at any hardware store. They're all compatible. They're all the same. And I think that's going to wrap up the build. I don't know. People want to know what music you like listening to. Is there any songs or bands you like?
Okay.
Right now, what's hip and hot?
Gonna get a bit of a lashback on this one.
Oh, listen, there's nothing you can say on the internet that won't give you lashback.
To be completely honest, I have music that I like from a lot of genres, and it really depends on my mood. I took a class on Beethoven, didn't do much of the listening, but I did like Vivaldi's Spring and Beethoven's Ninth. Meanwhile, I also, pop music, like This Isn't Pop, I don't have a radio that I can listen to up in Oregon because I haven't found the right station. But TikTok by Kesha, for example.
That song's like 7 years old.
It is. It just popped into my head because I recently refound the Hamlet parody of the song that I kind of wrote. Then meanwhile, I like I like it when songs are multilingual, like Lin-Manuel Miranda, for example, popular, I know, but he seems to do a pretty good job of embedding Spanish into English music and English, like American type pop music. Kind of, it's more rap than pop. But like Hamilton was something I really liked for a while, for an example. At the same point in time, I like some select songs from Eminem. I like, I think it's called Joyce, too strong. There's a song called Corey, I can't roll my R's, I'm sorry, that I did in a Spanish class, and I like that song. So...
You don't know the names of the songs? Of the Eminem song?
Oh, Eminem's song, it's Mockingbird, the one where he's all like, you know, I wanted to provide for my family and I couldn't and I'm sorry. There's also, I've been listening to Emily Autumn for a while. She's like very feminist, kind of yell it in your face, but I like her music. So
we had those women in the 80s. Let's see, there's Joan Jett and Susie Quattro.
I haven't heard of Brother Ali. No, I'm not a big 60s music person. I know some 70s from my dad, like Disco Duck, but...
Disco Duck?
Disco Duck.
Oh, that's...
Billy Joel. Billy
Really?
Joel was more 90s than 80s.
That's not true.
Okay, I wasn't alive back then.
Even the 70s.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Oh, and I've been listening to Pink's new album as well. What About Us is really interesting in terms of, I looked at the music video and went, this isn't about a breakup, this is societal commentary, because that's basically what I do in my major, is I read books, I say, here's the commentary that they're making, and then I read more books, or write stuff that's not a book, but could be published eventually. So I tend to look at the world through a bit of a lens of what's this trying to say at times.
Elliot Fleming contributed $2. Thank you for your contribution, Elliot. Appreciate that.
I did I write a little bit of music by ear, and I did a mashup of Seven Nation Army as well as Sweet Dreams Are Made of These. There we go. I'm not singing in front of you guys. So I like that kind of music as well. Nickelback, I know it's unpopular, but I grew up with it. So how can I not like something that I enjoyed growing up with?
Don't let other people tell you what's good to like. You like what you like. You don't have to make excuses for it.
So I actually sang a duet that I made of Coldplay's Viva La Vida junior year at a talent show. Problem was my partner didn't practice, so I had to cover for him when he'd forget to sing, and it was a giant mess, but I can add Coldplay to the list of things that I listen to.
When you get this to the dorm, what's the first game you're putting on there?
Divinity Original Sin 2. No hesitation.
I was going to say,
I was already going to ask, maybe I'll bring it back to the hotel for a few days, install some games, see how they are.
Well, do you have a monitor with you, though?
Yeah, we brought the HDMI cord, so we can just use their TVs.
Right to the hotel's TV, yeah. Good thinking. Just remember, plug into the graphics card video output, not on the one on the motherboard, because otherwise you're going to call me and say, how come when I turn it on, nothing happens?
Oh.
You'll say, the lights come on and the fans turn, but the screen stays black. And then I'm going to say,
have you tried?
Where did you plug the HDMI cable in? You're going to be in the video card, and I'm going to say, are you sure you didn't plug it into the motherboard and not the video card? And then there's going to be this pause. Oh.
Yeah.
So let's not do that.
Or I'll forget to turn the switch on the back and turn the...
Well, then the computer won't do anything. What I'm saying is you will get lights and everything, you just won't get any video. If you forget the switch in the back, nothing will happen. It'll just hit buttons and absolutely nothing, which is clear that it's not getting power.
So when you put in a graphics card, you reroute the graphics to that card rather than being able to access them from the motherboard.
The motherboard graphics are there for CPUs that have built-in graphics chips. They're very... they're weak, they provide, they're good for business use, for browsing the web, email, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, things like that. When you want a game, you need a discrete, independent graphics card with its own memory, its own processor, so that you can get that higher resolution, higher performance. And so you could theoretically run them both, where you had, say, a desktop on your motherboard graphics card and then your game on your video card. But then the video card itself can power 3 or 4 monitors on the back of this.
Yeah, 3, but like there's probably cables to reroute.
Yeah, so you'd be routing them out of the case into the monitors. But that's all available options for you. And if anybody's got any last questions, now is the time. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. That's going to do it for this build. So we'll just give people just a couple of minutes here to ask any last questions we can answer for you. Again, all the parts that we used in the build are listed in the video notes that are located below the video. And I want to thank everybody for joining us again in the chat for all the contributions, both today and yesterday, keeping the support for the channel going strong. And of course, you don't have to support the channel solely financially. You can do so by sharing links to your favorite videos on your social network, whether it's Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, InstaTwit, Chatterspace.
I was just reading the comments and seeing what questions they had.
I didn't see any yet.
Oh, I saw the game that I mentioned is called Divinity Original Sin 2. You can get Divinity Original Sin, which is the prequel, which is the game that came out beforehand, for about $14.99 on Steam. That one runs on Mac and PC, whereas Divinity Original Sin 2 only runs on PC. Essentially, it's a role-playing game similar to Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, it's an RPG, so it's going to be, but in this instance, the conversations you have with the characters, who you decide to kill, how you decide to kill them, can be different from player to player while still achieving the same goal, because what you do matters in the game. For example, there's one part where if you have a high enough diplomacy skill, you can just not fight some guy that's a guard to a cave, and you can just go into the cave. In another example, solving a bit of a murder, one of my friends solved it one way, I solved it another way, but we still solved it in the end. And someone else asked if I was happy with my build, and I'm absolutely happy with my build. It seems wonderful.
Yeah, I could have asked you that if I was thoughtful. I just assumed you would be.
Yeah.
But it is a very good question. Are you happy with it? So, and you've answered that. Good answer. So I guess I'll let you leave since you've answered it correctly.
The Bearcats is just the school mascot for my school. So, favorite movie? I don't have one because I don't have the time to really sit down and watch things that take a long time very frequently. So that one's kind of up in the air. I prefer more drama, but like not too much drama. It's weird. And then I have considered making a YouTube channel. I think I have one with a couple things on it, but most of those were like school projects or things I threw together in middle school, because I have no idea what to do otherwise.
Well, all right. I think that's going to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for jumping in, saying hello, joining us on the build. The first part of the build is already available for you to go back and watch as many times as you like. This part will be available once YouTube is done processing it. And then I'll probably take these videos when I have some time, and I'll let them be a live stream of pre-recorded videos on Twitch and try and get that Twitch audience up as well. And of course, Happy New Year to everybody. I don't know if this is the last live stream of 2017 or not. It might very well be. Kind of depends on what opportunities, if any, open up between now and the end of the month. I still have a lot of work to do. So thank you so much once again, and of course to the moderators for keeping everything civil in the chat. And I will see you all again very soon. If I don't see you before the new year, do have a safe and happy new year. And great job on the build. Thank you for doing this with me and indulging me and putting yourself out there to potential criticism, but clearly everybody loves you. I don't know what that's like.
Would I like to make a surprise interest on your gaming channel? If you write that in the comments after the film is uploaded, I might talk to you about that.
And in the meantime, if you're looking for more great content, be sure and check out Brytech09, his YouTube channel. He's there in the chat as well. He's got some great, much shorter videos, more to the point. And apparently Brian only consists of hands and a voice. That's all you'll ever see in his videos. I've seen a picture of him once, and it was just a pair of hands.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's all he cares about. That holds his beer. All right, thanks you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.